This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
No, cut that. Keep that. Someday it's going to be worth something.
Russ Wakeland.
You put me in an ATST with frickin' Wookiees attacking me and whatnot?
Now you're talking. And Seppy Yoon in the third chair.
I'm just happy to be here.
With contributions from Total Fangirl
Vampires do not sparkle.
and our loyal listeners.
Are you crazy? That's like 400 hours of gamer nonsense.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming. Come at the speed of an alien virus-laden asteroid hurtling towards a zombie-infested nuclear wasteland.
Ooh.
This edition is brought to you by all of our patrons, those folks who pledge us anywhere from 25 cents to $20 an episode to help us keep the lights on. This time around, we're including Jeremy Lynn, Jim Calmback, Jack Steve, Dice, and Ben Greenman. I think those names all got screwed up, sorry. And today our panelists are, as always, Russ, End of the World Wakeland, and Archfiend of the Apocalypse, Seppy, You're Not Dead Yet Yoon, game designer and creative slave at Fight in a Box Inc. Let's begin. Issue number 1. There are countless ways the world has been imagined to die over the years, from the apocalyptic views of hell rising up and engulfing the world in European times in the Middle Ages to the far more interesting and imaginative images we have been preferred today. Will it be aliens, asteroids, nuclear war, rise of the machines, viruses? Will it be virus-laden, asteroid-riding, nuclear-powered alien machines? The possibilities of our end times are, at this point, endless. Question. In 1920, New Hampshire's own, sort of, poet Robert Frost wrote his own ode to the end of the world. What were the two ways he envisioned the world ending, and what did he think was more likely? Radioactive Russ.
His hypothesis was fire or ice, and he said ice.
Sorely sodden Seppy.
I think his neighbors and him finally had it out.
And that is true. They did, actually. It was sad, and he got kicked out and sent to England. But sadly, Russ is right.
Yes!
Oh, no.
Write this thing down.
In half.
Aww.
To quote the great man himself, from what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But in his last part of the poem, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great.
See?
So I'll give Russ 3/4, which is
I'll
still
take it.
25% wrong. Issue number 2. It cannot be denied by any right-minded individual over the age of 35 that the greatest decade the world has ever experienced for art, science, literature, music, film, mathematics, and every other metric such things can be measured by was the 1980s.
Of course.
If you do not believe me, I mourn for your ignorance. Question. What was the single greatest achievement of that greatest of decades? Reagan Russ.
I'm going to go with the later Monty Python films.
Spielberg Seppi.
Back to the Future.
Oh, can there be any doubt in anyone's mind that the decade that brought us Milli Vanilli would live on forever in the annals of history? Too soon? Issue number 3. As the all-knowing Wikipedia says, guerrilla marketing is an advertisement strategy concept designed for businesses to promote their products or services in an unconventional way with little budget to spend.
Yes.
Question. What is thought to have been the first example of guerrilla marketing perpetrated by Thomas J. Barrett, working for the Pears Soap Company in England? We do chicken right, Russ.
Using soap boxes for people to make speeches on.
Sometimes you feel like a nut Seppy.
Using soap to punish children.
Oh, sadly, that is both wrong. 500,000 French coins were purchased, imported, and then altered to feature the Pears logo on them. Then released back into circulation. It resulted in great word of mouth at the time and an act of parliament to make sure it never happened again. Issue number 4, possibly the most important issue Rapid Fire has ever discussed. The end of the world. For reals, y'all.
Yeah.
In October of 2015, NASA announced that it had discovered how the world was going to end. And it was truly terrifying. Question. How will the Earth be destroyed? Grote Rebber Russ.
Gravitational waves.
Nato Sato Seppi.
I'm thinking it's going to be the gamma wave cannon from a explosion of a supernova and a collapsing of a black hole.
That sounds bad. That's not what NASA said. Our world will end when our sun expands upon its death, engulfing Venus and Mercury and possibly the Earth as well. If the Earth survives the expansion, it will then be shredded by the gravitic forces tearing the solar system apart. But don't worry, the radioactive alien zombie machines will get us way before that happens. That's all we've got for this episode. Thanks for listening, and good night.
This episode of the D6 Generation is brought to you by Lone Wolf Development. Take your game to the next level.
And by Geek Nation Tours. Rise up and join the Geek Nation, touring the world at geeknationtours.com.
And by Audible. Try the service, get a free book, and support the show. All by visiting audibletrial.com/D6G. Hello!
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, and welcome to
Hey.
episode 184, Craig.
That's one. I feel like we're on Mount Everest.
We're
now.
climbing up there of the D6 Generation. I am Russ Wakelin.
I am Craig Galon.
And I'm Seppy Yoon.
Hey, Seppy, welcome to the show.
Happy.
Very excited to have Seppy here today. Now, Seppy, you have been involved in several games now. You're quite the little game designer now.
Oh, wouldn't say that.
Oh, yes, indeed. It's excellent. So we're happy
But
to have...
we would, and that's what really matters.
We would, that's right. So
Yes,
and
that's what really matters.
You're a former marketing guru.
I was.
Yes. So we figured...
Well, do you ever stop being a marketing guru?
No,
Isn't
not really.
being a marketing guru a lot like being a U.S. Marine?
Right. Sumter Fi.
You just never...
Well,
No.
Now wait.
Never mind.
Now wait. Now are you like a marketing Dalai Lama? Do you sit on like a little bit of rug and do people climb the mountain to come to you and ask you marketing questions?
Yeah, occasionally nonprofits still come to me asking for help.
Which means you have still maintained your status as a marketing
That's
guru.
true.
I don't know. I help with marketing basics in that time, making marketing teams. But I'm going to take the compliment.
So
Thank
there we
you
go.
very much.
So there we go. So that means, we figured, what the heck? We figure like marketing is actually important for games too.
It is.
And we don't want to just talk about regular old boring marketing. But you got to kind of market the marketing, right? You can't just say we're going to talk about marketing. That's not exciting. But if we say we're going to talk about guerrilla marketing, now you're talking, right? It's got a cool word in front of it. It must be awesome, right?
Yeah, you could also say, hey, we're going to talk about marketing for really, 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 really poor people.
Or that. So we'll talk about that. And then also we're going to talk about Seppy's latest adventure game here. Adventure in gaming, I should say. End of the Line. And it's a Kickstarter now, so we're going to talk a lot about that and why he's doing that, and what it's all about, and how cool it is a little later in this episode. But first,
We got a chance to play it at Captain Con.
We did very excited.
Woot.
But first, before we get to all that, Craig, we have some, announcements. Speaking of conventions, Craig.
Yes. Are we, speaking of conventions?
Well, we are now.
I hope it's like fun and interesting conversation about conventions.
I think we should talk about the next upcoming convention hotness that we're going to be attending.
Yeah, what's that?
Adepticon 2016
and wait,
in Chicago.
is there going to be a Wakeland presence at Adepticon this year?
I think there might be. I'm pretty excited about this.
Oh,
Yes.
huzzah!
Oh, indeed. And Seppy, are you going to be there?
I am.
Of course you are.
Seppy's going to be there. It's going to be like a reunion tour.
It is. And so is our friends at Games and Gears. All kinds of folks. In fact, we owe him lunch. So got to buy John some lunch there. So very excited.
That's not Games and Gears. That's
no.
John from Muse on
Yes,
Minis.
Muse on
But
Minis,
that's okay.
sorry.
This is why you never want Russ to owe you anything, by the way.
because I'll buy the wrong guy lunch. It'd be
He's
very
going to buy
awkward.
the wrong guy lunch.
I'm cramming into a room of 6 of the Muse on Mini guides. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Oh, good.
So I'll
That'll
remind
be
them.
fun.
That would be
Yeah.
excellent. So Craig, what are we excited for at Adepticon this year?
Well, of course, we will be running our regular big giant game night. God only knows where we're going to end up this time. Last time we were in a bit of a hallway, but it was kind of a cool place, and it was sort of intimate. It was really neat. But there's going to be all kinds of stuff. Looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to seeing some serious Planetfall.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I can't wait.
Planetfall.
I think I got to paint my Planetfall up now. Are we going to play Planetfall at Adepticon, Craig? Is that what's going to happen?
I don't know. That's what Bob wants us to do.
It's small. It's portable. It's
It
fun.
is. It
I
is.
think that'll
I'm
have to
planning
happen.
on bringing some Walking Dead. I'll tell you.
I think I got to bring some Antares. I got a lot of miniatures to carry now. This is getting to be quite the project.
Yeah, Antares, but that's I don't know.
I don't
it's a lot of
know.
work.
Anyway, we're going to be there. We're going to be running our now what seems to become a staple Sunday night board gaming night, right?
And as it has been for the last 8 years.
Yeah, so apparently that makes it a staple. I guess 8 in a row or whatever. So we're going to be doing that. We're very excited about that this Sunday. That Sunday. And what weekend is that, Craig?
That is such a good question. That is the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of April.
Yes, very well played, sir. So
Thank
looking
you.
forward to that very much, and that's getting close.
I was doing Gen Con scheduling earlier this evening.
We
so
hope to see you there at Adepticon this year. So if you're in the Chicago area, either you're coming for Adepticon or just happen to live nearby, come on down and say hello. We'd love to see you. And we'll have some cool swag and some board games to give away and all kinds of fun stuff. So can't wait for that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, also, Seppy, do you remember that we caught up with you at Dunkin' Donuts?
Yes.
Now,
and I embarrassed myself talking about 70s and 80s movies, but the coffee you bought me was excellent.
I'm glad you enjoyed the coffee. Great.
You know what was also excellent afterwards was the chocolate-filled cronut.
Ooh, yes. Those
croissant
are pretty
donut,
good.
as they call
those are
it.
pretty good. Although I wish there was more chocolate filling in those. I think
That is true. That is true. I did have that thought.
Yeah, I thought so too.
There were a couple bites where there was no chocolate filling.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to have a chocolate-filled donut,
if you're going to charge you a couple bucks for a donut,
I feel like you should. But anyway, we're not here to talk about chocolate-filled donuts.
Anyway,
but if you want lost chapters and hear us talk about chocolate-filled donuts and great movies from the 70s and 80s that are being remade, or should they be remade, or will they be remade, or do we want them to be remade, or some combination thereof? I can't remember exactly what that was. Craig, how should people check out?
Well, the best way to do it clearly is to become a patron.
Yes.
That works the best for all involved, including you. And you go to our website, the d6generation.com. You look on the right-hand column. You find the Patreon button, or you can just go to patreon.com and search for the D6 Generation. You'll see Russ and I making a lovely little video, and it will explain basically how Patreon works. And then you can pledge anywhere from a penny up to $20 or more, if you really want to, per episode.
Right.
And every time we put out a main episode, Patreon will take that money from you sort of as a tip, as a donation to the show. And if you pledge $2 or more per episode, you get all of the lost chapters for free.
It's like Netflix. The entire library opens up for you. It's,
Exactly.
pretty exciting. So check that out. So what's the time now for, Craig?
Achievements in gaming.
It is indeed. So Achievements in Gaming, as always, is brought to us by our fine friends over at Patreon. Go over there, check them out. We appreciate all our friends over there keeping the lights on and let us doing nice things like buy people pizza lunch at Adepticon who show up and say hello. So that's always fun.
That's right.
So, Seppy, what have you been playing besides the games you're designing?
I got to start our Pandemic Legacy season.
Ooh.
Have you guys gotten to do that yet?
I've been playing Risk Legacy, but I have not tried Pandemic Legacy. What do you like about Pandemic Legacy?
I had no idea how sort of deep and sort of cinematic and narrative the whole thing was. I mean, there's spoilers.
Oh, yeah.
People when you started out, like everybody else in Tower Games wasn't making eye contact because they're like, I don't want to give away how awesome this journey is. And it really seriously is like Christmas. Not like my family sort of terrible afternoon special kind of Christmas, but the Christmas that I used to experience in the windows of my neighbors when I looked longingly with my face pressed up in the glass. So that Christmas, I was like, I was there.
Nice.
A good Christmas.
Nice.
Yeah.
The Red Ryder BB gun Christmas. Excellent.
Right.
That's awesome. Yeah, Risk Legacy. I've heard that Risk Legacy, was the first, and it's good. But I've heard the storytelling level in Pandemic just takes it to another level.
It's crazy. It's crazy good. It's crazy good.
Cool. I want to try that out.
Awesome.
What else you playing?
Does writing for Dungeons and Dragons count as gaming?
Of course it does. Of course it does.
Okay, so I am on my second great campaign. I don't do anything sort of half-assed.
Oh, nice.
So
Nice. I like that.
The first one was the great campaign. It was 18 months, 3 sessions a month, 12 hours a session.
Wow, that is epic. Oh, dude.
Yeah,
Nice.
and the one we're in right now is called the Great Mystery Campaign, and we're into We're in our 20th month, but there's been a lot of breaks in there because starting a company and other things like that.
Right.
But I generally do about 40 hours of prep a session.
Wow, that's a lot of work, dude. For a 12-hour session, but still, that's a lot.
Well, the sessions have gotten down to 8 hours, but still, that's that's what I do. Yeah, production values are a thing.
Yeah. So, do you have a lot of pre-recorded, audio and full motion video and three-dimensional room set up here, or how serious is this?
Well, it's pretty serious. Like if they go to a new city or town, like all the major people sort of are already fleshed out and how they sort of want to interact with the plot.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool.
And the various agendas are sort of thing. And then lots of maps. I designed a whole set of like Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator brushes so that the maps that I make always have the same consistent look. And for this one, we have a pure black and white theme. So, yeah, I'm talking production value.
That's awesome, dude. That sounds amazing. Wow, I wish you were my DM. That sounds fantastic.
That's a lot. Now, have you ever thought about using RealmWorks to track it all?
I think I'm gonna have to. I'm thinking I have to get into one of those.
Sounds like you've got an awful lot of stuff to keep track of.
Does.
And considering that's right there, I was just saying.
Right.
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
Cool.
Very cool. That sounds amazing. Very cool.
And with all that time taken up, are you playing anything else?
Occasionally I get to play my own games, but that's about it. We don't have to talk about those.
Once or twice.
Yeah, once or twice. A lot of scrolling die. I actually got to play 3-player End of the Line, which I haven't done in like a forever, and it's super ridiculously fun. It's so mean.
Nice.
When we talk about the game later in the show, you'll have to explain to us why 3-player is particularly mean. Right now, it probably won't mean much to most of the folks.
All right, well, we'll cover it later. But yeah, that's sort of what I've been doing, and of course, everything Kickstarter. All day, every day.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
Russ, what about you? You look like you have quite an extensive list there.
Yes. So, as I mentioned when last episode, the family and I got into Risk Legacy, and we have now been religiously playing it every Sunday as a family of 4 for 3 weeks. So we've gotten to our third game, and we were very excited because much as Seppy was just saying with pandemic, there are events that occur in the game that allow you to open these little packets that have giant hazard striping on them and say do not open until various events happen. Now, in this third game, so in the first game, my oldest daughter won, who's 13. In the second game, my youngest daughter won. And now here's what happens. As players win, so every player starts the campaign with 1 victory point when they sit down. And you got to get to 4 victory points to win the game. But after you win the game once, you don't get a starting victory point anymore. Instead, you get a starting missile, which lets you turn 1 die you roll in the game of Risk that day to a 6, right? So it's cool to have the missile, but you've lost that free victory point, so now it's that much harder for you to win. So theoretically, it should be hard for anybody to get a second win until all the other players have really got their first win, right? Well, my youngest daughter, in our second game, got her first win. And in our third game, she beat us all again. And now the parents, my wife and I, have not won a game. And my second daughter, my youngest daughter, won her second game. And that triggers a packet being opened. I won't say what was in it because that would be a spoiler. And also, it happened to be the time when and this isn't a spoiler because it's in the core before you even open anything up. If you survive the game of Risk, so in the original Risk, you play till everybody's wiped out. So in Risk Legacy, you play until someone scores 4 victory points. And every player's got a capital. So owning a capital is worth a victory point, and you start with one of those. Owning the starting victory point's worth 1. So you start the game, if you haven't won one before, with 2 victory points, halfway there. If I can capture another player's capital, that's 3 victory points. And you can also, instead of trading in the Risk cards for more dudes, you can also collect a set of 4 and trade them in for a victory point. So you play your cards right, pun, you can actually get the 4 victory points pretty quickly. But my youngest was able to do this again, get the victory points, get the big win. If you survive to the end of the game, though, and don't get wiped out, you can found a minor city. And so this is where you take a sticker from the sticker pack and you stick it on the board permanently. So I'm going to be like, I'm going to found a city in Indonesia, and I stick it on there, and it says the city, and I can write the name of the city right onto the sticker. So I can found Rustville or whatever. So we all did that, and once all the minor cities are founded, that triggers another event in the game. And it's pretty cool because the overall story, just really high level, is that science has found a way to open portals into other realities, and they found these other versions of Earth, but they're uninhabited. So humanity has gone through these portals, and we're all starting to colonize these new Earths, but they're all empty. So when you first go in there, there's all these different factions land, and they start fighting for control. And as more and more cities get founded, at some point, obviously when all the small cities are founded, now politics starts to come in, and there's other meta games that happen, and it adds more rules. And there's actually stickers that go into the rule book that change the game setup rules, that change other rules in the game, and permanently alter how the game is played. So it's pretty cool. So we're having a lot of fun with that. So that's been great. Let's see. Also played a game called Dragon Face. This is pretty neat. It is a 2-player abstract game, kind of like your checkers. But what's neat about this one is that the pieces are all double-sided, and when you take an opponent's piece, it flips it over to your color.
Like Othello.
Yes, like Othello. But what's also interesting is that, but unlike Othello, you're not, getting a row of them, and you're not placing new pieces down. You're actually sliding them around like checkers. So it's actually when I jump you, right, I take you, or if I capture you like in chess, I take you. But what's interesting is there's this outer set of spaces that once you enter them, you're locked there, and it makes for sort of interesting situations. It's hard to describe, but it was pretty fun. I had a lot of good fun with that one. Then let's see. Also played a game called Maximum Throwdown, which is a dexterity game where you actually lay out a small set of cards in the middle of the table, and then each player takes a deck of other cards, and you throw them and try to get them to land in a way that they touch the cards already in the table with a certain side up, which displays icons. And after you throw, you get to get these little bonus actions for all the icons that are there. And you're trying to score victory points, but your other player can throw his cards and try to land them on top of your icons. So when your icons are covered, you don't get to use them. It's kind of neat. Let's see what else. Also played Beyond the Gates of Antares with both. We did a big demo at Adler Hobby, Craig.
Yes, we did. I think it will go down as our worst demo ever.
Yes, the players were all great, but for some reason, it was the exact same scenario we ran at Captain Con, and for some reason, the GAR players were able to win in like 30 seconds. I don't even know what happened.
It was the shortest, full-sized miniatures war game demo mega battle we've ever done.
Players seem to have fun, but it was very short.
The whole thing was done in 15 minutes.
Yes, but
it took more time to set it up than to play it.
It did, but the tables at Adler Hobby were fantastic.
The table looked fantastic. Yeah. Everybody seemed to have a really good time and get enough of a grasp of the rules that they really enjoyed it. They were looking at the rule books and the starter boxes there, and so that's cool. Yeah.
So also played a game of War Machine with my daughter Rose again, and I lost, and probably the less said about that, the better. I know it was a good time, but I really got to get serious about my list building with her. She's getting quite good at this game. So that then the app Suro came out for iOS. Have you guys seen this? So it's Suro, the board game from our friends at Calliope Games. But it's on iOS, and it looks fantastic, and it's great fun to play multiplayer where you pass and play it. And playing a lot of that with the family when we're waiting for a restaurant table or waiting for the movies or whatever. That's good times. And Craig, finally, my Imperial Assault gang got back together.
Sort of. What does that mean, sort of?
Well, it's sort of because it's kind of like when there's a reunion from one of your favorite bands, but only half the members are the original members of the band.
Oh, yeah?
So it's kind of like that. Same campaign, just where we left off, but only half the people are the ones playing.
So who was your Sammy Hagar in that situation?
Well, our friend Bill was our Sammy Hagar. He came in and played. He was actually good fun. He was fun, had a good time, and so it was good times. It was good to have it back. We ate a lot of Swedish fish, which is sort of what we do, and had fun with that. Looking forward to finishing
and
that campaign
singing.
up.
There's always more singing in your group.
There is a lot more singing in our group, yes. And it's still, thanks to Randy being there and Adam, there was still some more singing.
Oh, see, there you go.
And then also played more Blood Rage. I am having so much fun with Blood Rage, Craig.
It's a great game.
But every time I play this game, I learn a subtle rule that I was playing wrong. And the funny thing is...
Of course you do.
It's very clear in the rule book. So I don't know how Well, you know what it is, Craig? When you aren't sure or when you're ready to learn the rules as they should be played, just invite Blake to play with you. It's pretty much what you got to do. And Blake totally got us corrected on that game. The one thing we've been doing wrong, Craig, or at least I've been doing wrong, is that when someone pillages and there's a battle, if the person who initiates the pillage does not win, the square does not get pillaged.
Oh.
I know. It's huge, actually, right?
That is huge.
So we've been playing that wrong, and I was like, wow, that's a big difference. And it's clear as day in the rulebook. I'm like, how did I miss that?
I'm sure it is.
So anyway. And then also played another round of the Unmentionable game, Craig. The Unmentionable game.
The Unmentionable game.
Yes, but I played another round of that. Can't mention it.
What is? I don't know what that is.
It's Unmentionable. It was designed by a Warhammer 44.
Oh, that game.
Yes, Unmentionable.
Oh, that's right. You got the copy of the Unmentionable game to bring home.
And I played.
Was it as fun as it was the first time we played the Unmentionable game?
All right. Well, it's kind of hard to even mention this game because it's unmentionable, but
yeah.
Not as much. I played it with more hardcore gamers.
Uh-huh.
So if you're not in the mood for a light game, and it's light and random,
Yeah.
And it
well,
was
it's a filler game. It's a fun filler game.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so we'll see.
You got a bunch of cranky guys.
I got to play test it more. I really do. So anyway, it's unmentionable.
Was this? Who was playing with you? Who was it? Name the culprits.
Right. Adam, Blake, and Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nope,
So
enough said. Moving on.
Okay. Fair enough. All right.
Not a light, fun group there. I mean, they can be. Some or all of them at different times can be, but they can all be cranky gamers too.
So moving on. What about modeling? Seppy, you doing any
What about
painting?
me games? I played games. I don't get to talk about my games?
Sure.
I'm excited to hear about Craig's games,
Okay,
Russ.
let's hear about
Come
Craig's
on. Thank you, Seppy.
Right.
Thank you.
Go.
Well, first, there was this demo that went anyway. So the Gates of Antares demo. Reese has been on vacation, as have I been. So we've been playing a lot of games. We played Carcassonne. We wanted to see if he could play Carcassonne. So we did. We don't use the farmers, but other than that, he was getting a good grasp of that. And then he got kind of confused as things started to get bigger and bigger. So we went to Carcassonne the Castle, which is the 2-player version of Carcassonne, and he played that, and he enjoyed it, but he was starting to get bored. Then I played a lot more of that epic roll game that we got sent a few weeks ago, which is a fast, fun game where you're fighting lots of undead creatures in a graveyard. It's a die-rolling game, push-your-luck game. It was a lot of fun. The full-court press for me lately has been The Walking Dead, which is a Mantic Kickstarter that's going on. Well, it's actually, by the time you hear my voice, it's probably over. But it's a miniatures game based on the comics of The Walking Dead. And they did a very smart thing. They released some beta test rules about a week or so ago. And I printed them all out, and I blinged out my copy so it would look for Russ. Like I could fool Russ into thinking maybe it was mostly the full copy. And I ran a game with Russ and Rafe, and Russ didn't even mention it in his achievement, so I guess he didn't care about it.
No, I wanted to give you all the glory of discussion.
Oh, of course you did.
I did.
Then I have played it. You with a couple minor tweaks. You could play it co-op. So Reese and I played 2 games co-op, and he is loving it.
Ooh.
He loved it because, and Russ's main complaint about the game was that I did not have a Carl model for the Carl character.
Yes.
So there was no little boy in a big policeman's hat.
No, there was not.
Nope. So I modeled one, which I'll get to in modeling. And so I have a little. So Reese was like, "I want to be the little boy." I was like, "Okay, so I'll be the little boy's dad." And we had a great fun daddy and son romp through the zombie apocalypse. And the first game went great. I was Rick. I got bitten, but luckily I didn't turn into a zombie. And the game ended, and we had successfully got our objectives and got off the board.
Craig, some people are asking us about this game on the Facebook because I put pictures of your awesome stuff up there. And their question is, what differentiates this from all
maybe
the
they
other...
should talk to me on Twitter or email and not Facebook, where I don't speak.
Well, I thought maybe you could share it on the show here.
Oh, fine. Why? Because more people listen to the show than do the Facebook?
Yes.
Fine. What's the question?
What differentiates it from all the other great zombie games out there?
No, I've answered this on Twitter. It is not bogged down by ridiculous levels of detail. Mm-hmm. It's a fun, fast game, mm-hmm. I think. I mean, it was very fun and, very fast anyway when you and Ray
It was
played.
fun. No, I liked it, yeah.
It is not a brain burner. It's very, very, very simple. The concepts of the game are very simple. And you can do pretty much anything you can imagine. It's played on a very small 2-foot by 2-foot table or area. So it's not super complex, not a lot of moving parts. The zombie AI it can be a little clunky, but it's very easy to just kind of fudge what you think the zombies would do. I love the fact that it has a deck of cards, of event cards, that every turn progress the threat level of the game and the tension level of the game, and that it has this threat tracker where every time you do something really loud or something really bad happens, the threat tracker goes up. Lots of event cards will move the threat tracker up. Any hand-to-hand combat moves the threat tracker up. And all of the event cards are triggered to where on the threat tracker you are at any given moment. So the whole game scales up and gets more and more intense. And it's sort of like a cascading failure effect where once things start to go wrong, they usually go very, very wrong very, very quickly towards the end. And if the threat tracker gets to 18, it ends the game, and then you've got to figure out who wins based on who's got the most stuff when it ends. It's not, I would like it to be a little more granular. There's an awful lot of 50-50 die rolling. I think that's mainly because it's a beta test. But I really enjoy it. And I haven't really been looking at it as a Walking Dead game, although that's like all the characters are from The Walking Dead, the comic, not the TV show. All the zombies are cool. I've just been looking at it as more of a general zombie game, and I've had a blast, and I've used a bunch of different terrain. There's really no rules for buildings, so just putting a building down and saying walls, block line of sight and stuff, and doors, you need to interact with a door as one of your actions to open it. That just using those two sort of semi-fudges have gotten me. I mean, I've used my next big Antonicetti's Workshop building that I built, which is a giant sort of sci-fi looking or near future looking med lab. We played that. I played that. That was our most recent game. We had I was having fun because he was like, I want to be the big guy now, Dad. And so I was like, okay, so I'll be Carl. And I got bitten right off the bat. First thing I did was run up to a Humvee that was parked in front of the med lab. I opened the Humvee to get out to search for supplies, and there was a lurker inside that bit me. So right off the bat, first action of the game, I'm bitten. I've got to test every turn to turn into a zombie now, or lose my health as I'm going. And I'm getting weaker and weaker as we go. We use the big lift elevator to the roof. There's a helicopter, a Coast Guard helicopter on the roof. So Reese ran to try to search that, and it was a booby trap, so that blew up in his face. So we were getting like all these bad events that were happening. We opened up the hatch. There were 2 zombies inside. We shot the zombies because it doesn't matter. The shooting will bring every zombie within 8 inches towards you, which is kind of a cool effect because it starts to mob and they start to herd together. But we didn't care. We were inside the building, and I figured we could probably lure them around to one side and then bolt out one of the side doors. Then I died. So Carl at the bottom of the ladder fails. He's got his lucky hat, which always gives him a 50-50 chance of regaining 1 wound every time he goes to 0. The lucky magic hat finally failed me. So I was like, "Oh, buddy, I died. I'm dead." And he's like, "Okay, I shoot you." No hesitation. No thought required.
No remorse.
Like, but we're on the same side. No, Daddy, you're a zombie now.
You're a zombie now. Down.
Like, you're right. All right. Good call,
down.
bud. I'm dead. All right. So that was awesome. And then today I drove out to Lincoln and played with Joe, and we had a blast. We played the full on demo rules instead of the co-op. And I had Rick and Carl, and he had 4 bad guys. And I was doing extremely well. We were fighting around a factory, and the factory ended up being like full. There were 5 zombies inside the factory, and the last token that we needed to get was in the middle of the factory. So I'd opened a door and then lured them out with gunshots, and they were all going out. Everything was great. And then a car alarm went off, and there was a police car parked out front, and an alarm went off, and all the zombies came back at me. Yeah. And it ended up with poor Carl on the floor of the factory, surrounded by 4 zombies, which is crazy because every additional zombie after the first gets an additional number of dice. Oh, it's just crazy. It's crazy. So you're rolling 1 die against basically 20 dice, and so Carl went down like a chump, and Rick was there watching and fighting off the bad guys, and then he fell, and that was it. So. Lots of cinematic stuff happened. I think the game is really nailing the theme and the feel. You get this constant feeling of pressure and threat. At the same time, you're terrified of using your gun because it brings any zombie within 8 inches. So you find yourself like sort of skirting around areas. I think there's still going to be some tweaks, but their goal as it has always been stated, is to try to make this a simple miniatures game to try to bring in people from the comic books. So I've enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, and I hope to play it again soon. Today, actually, they're releasing more characters and more equipment cards for equipping your characters. So I'm hoping that I can get more games of that in soon, because I've been really digging getting all that terrain that I did for zombie games out again. So that's been fun. And that's been my games.
All right, cool. Well, now we can go to modeling. So
Now
Seppy,
we go to modeling.
what have you been building, Seppy?
I've been eyeballing Guild Ball.
Oh, what's there not to eyeball?
Yeah, but we can't count this as actual modeling. You can't look at a model.
Please, you count all kinds of stuff as
Not
modeling.
looking at a model, though. I mean, really.
I believe you have counted looking at a model as modeling more than once.
Sometimes people just purchase them, and that's modeling.
Okay.
Sometimes they just glue them together. I mean, I'm
assembly
on the-
counts. I will give you
Russ,
assembly.
Russ, I'm on the spectrum.
Okay.
Okay, I'm on the modeling spectrum.
That's
There
fine.
you go.
Who am I
He
to
is.
judge? Who am I to judge? Really? So what team are you looking at?
That is a really good question. Maybe the Brewers.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool looking.
Okay. Well, keep on looking there. Let us know when you buy some. Excellent. Craig, what about you? What do you do
He's
for modeling?
mean. Well, it's funny that Seppy should mention that. I've been modeling Guild Ball.
Hey, and are you looking at them, or where on the spectrum are you right now?
Joe loved the game so much that he picked up a team, actually got them direct from England, of course, because it's Joe. And he doesn't have any time to paint them, so he asked me to paint them. And so I was like, well, there's this new game coming out, this Marvel game, that if you want to buy those, I'll paint them all. And so he's like, okay, cool. So he bought a bunch of those. Those don't come out yet. Those are pre-order. So I put together Guild Ball models are great. They look beautiful. They are not for the faint of heart. They are not like
easy to
entry level
assemble.
models.
Yeah, no, they're not.
No, they've got lots of little pieces. There's for the super dynamic poses. There's lots of separate arms and legs and things like that. So putting them together is like an all evening affair for me. That's like all of my hobby time for one whole night, putting them together. But then I got them all primed and base coated now, so they're really close to being done. So that was fun. Before I did that, I finished, like I said, my next Antonicetti's forward base Hab 2, the Med Lab, which is a lot of fun. It comes with all kinds of cool gizmos and gadgets that go inside it. So that was fun. And I built Carl!
Yes, with his hat.
War Games Factory has a whole box set of Apocalypse Survivor. Actually, they have two box sets. They have Apocalypse Survivors, the men, and Apocalypse Survivors, the women. So I used the Apocalypse Survivors, the men, which comes with a little boy, and it comes with a little boy head, and it comes with a police officer with a hat very similar to Rick's hat. And so I cut off the hat and cut off the top of the little boy's head and put it all together. So I have a Carl model now.
Nice.
So that Russ won't be able to complain next time.
That's good. I'm excited to hear that.
Yep. That's me. What about you, Russ?
Well, in my game with my daughter in War Machine, it did come down to a stand-up die roll at the very end, which is the best way to end a game. And that was thanks in no small part to my Hammersmith, which is a large warjack that I painted up mostly but hadn't finished. And so I figured he'd earned his finishing. So I was finishing him up. And this is the first model I got to break up my new D6G brushes, Craig.
Oh, yes.
And
How are they
I
working?
love them. They're awesome. Oh, my goodness.
They're beautiful
I'm really,
brushes.
really happy with them.
Great.
So very impressed by our friends at Games and Gears. Those are great, great brushes. So good stuff. What about other stuff? So, Seppy, what about things like, TV, movies, books, any of that geeky goodness?
Okay, so with my not sleeping because of the Kickstarter, I got a lot of XCOM 2 in.
There you go.
That's fantastic.
Now, I am loving XCOM 2 a lot. I mean, I'm really enjoying it. I think I even enjoy, some people are complaining about the turn limits and stuff, but I think it actually makes the game more intense, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, move it forward. Move the story forward.
I watched Joe playing it today, and it looks a lot like you're playing a computer game of Infinity.
Yeah, it's a miniature skirmish game. Totally is.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And I like sort of small unit tactics. That's sort of
me too.
My shtick.
Have you had any technical problems with the game? I've run into a couple that have been a little frustrating. Have you had any of those?
No. Once all the bad guys decided to stop moving.
Yeah. So I had one where all my save games reverted to a week before, which kind of sucked because I just put in quite a few hours the day before. So I was like really bummed about that. And I don't know if it has something to do with Steam Cloud or whatever happened, or if it's just my computer. I don't know. But yeah, so it's a little bit buggy, but it's still awesome. And I don't even care because you play it again and like there's subtle things that are different every time almost. So it's kind of like
where they start you is a big deal.
Yeah, right.
And then the individual content bonuses change it a little bit.
So
it seems that way. Yeah. I'd highly recommend it.
I would too, despite some. I'm sure they'll work them all out, but despite the few technical glitches, I'm loving it also.
One of the things I love about XCOM 2 is also how the female characters are rendered.
Yes. Yeah.
They seem very combat ready.
Yeah.
Still a little bit feminine, but not in any pejorative sort of too tight.
Yes. No, you're right.
But they look like combat sort of hardened people.
They actually wear full body armor, unlike other games where they, for some reason, don't wear full body armor. Right.
Back to our 80s movie and like early movie discussion, like Aliens 2. Vasquez.
Right.
They all have that sort of air about, and she's one of my favorite sort of B characters in any James Cameron movie.
She's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. A little Darkest Dungeon. Have you guys done Darkest Dungeon?
I have not. So what's Darkest Dungeon like?
Darkest Dungeon's really good. It's sort of this Lovecraftian story where you're sort of between like pistols and cannons era, but so you're still having people use broadswords and armor. It's sort of that era of sort of medieval working stuff, and basically it's a side scroller, and it's all these horrible things happen to your people, and you keep on going to this dungeon over and over again, trying to level up your people to get them to the final dungeon where they have to confront this terrible thing that your relative who summoned you to this area to rebuild your manor. Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. It's hard to describe a little bit, but I would check it out on Steam.
All right, cool. I'll get a look. Yeah,
it's like you have a 4-person party, a lot of different classes, lots of terrible things happen to you. I'm not used to going to a dungeon and coming back with syphilis. This is not something that I
Hey, man, it happens to the best of us.
I'm like,
you gotta watch those toilet seats.
I did. I put my
watch the toilet seats.
You gotta
I'm
watch
like,
the toilet
what
seats.
happened?
You gotta watch those doorknobs.
Right. Don't touch any strangers.
You come back with rabies and your people slowly go insane. And then there's a stress level in the game. And so the more stress, and then they have a freak out moment like Hudson's in Aliens, where then they start everybody else freaking out and their stress level goes higher and higher.
Yeah.
And then if people get too stressed, they end up having a heart attack.
Right.
It's fantastic. This game
sounds good.
All right.
It's super dark. It's super fun.
Yeah.
It's really light. You can always like pick up and save at any time. So if you got other things going on, it's not something you have to like sort of sit down. You can do like one mission at a time.
Right.
Going and so there's a little tiny like building up your community aspect. There's a lot of leveling and gear. But not overly wrought. So you have to bring your supplies for the individual dungeon runs.
Nice.
So you need like torches because the monsters surprise you if you're running around in the dark, but you surprise them if it's really bright out. There's traps. Oh, and it's all of this is contained in a 2D side scroller.
Wow.
It's really ingenious as far as elegance of play. And ingenuity and storytelling. The voiceover work is fantastic. I would highly recommend it because it's really cheap too.
All right, cool. I'll have to check it out. Darkest Dungeon.
And then let's see. I play a little Hearthstone so I can keep up with my WoW buddies. Did you guys have WoW buddies?
I did.
No.
So I play, because Blizzard.net, Battle.net, right? You can see it's all connected, right? So
right.
I don't play as much Hearthstone as I play StarCraft. So yeah, some of my friends who used to play a lot of WoW, for a while my brother was really into WoW, and I was able to connect to him that way, because you'd see him online in Battle.net, you could talk to him and stuff.
Right. And I mean, I used to run a 40-man raiding guild back in vanilla.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so you were serious.
So we were pretty serious, and then you spend like, and no bullshit, like a year of your time with some of these people, like in game, depending on how hardcore you are. And so this is my sort of light avenue to reconnect with them,
right.
Which I like a lot. That's super fun. And then as far as geekery goes, anime. I do a lot of anime.
Oh, what are you liking right now? What are you watching?
I'd highly recommend Gate. Have you guys do you guys do anime at all?
I do some. So Gate, is it? What do you think of Gate? How do you like it? What's it like?
Gate's fantastic. You would think that it isn't that awesome, but it's about like a dimensional gate opening up in the middle of Tokyo, and all these medieval people come pouring out into modern Japan, and they run amok in the city for like a half an episode, and then the Japanese Defense Force shows up and kills all these medieval wyvern riding people with their Apache helicopters and all this other kind of stuff. And since they don't want this to happen again, they go to the other side of the gate and establish a beachhead. And it's about how a modern Japanese army interacts with a medieval world.
Medieval fantasy world. Yeah, cool.
It's really, really good.
Now, how adult is it?
It's not very far on the adult scale. It's not really light. I wouldn't necessarily promote it for everybody.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's safe. It's safe enough.
Yeah, so I've tried Full Metal Alchemist with my kids, but that's a little too gory for them.
Okay, then no, this is not for you.
Okay, just checking.
No.
I'm trying to get a level set on that.
All right. Also, I would recommend the new Gundam series is good. You guys
I like
know
Gundam.
who Gundam is,
I
right?
love Gundam. I didn't realize there was a new series out.
So Gundam is always like early teenage boys getting into giant robots and beating the crap out of things.
And there's nothing wrong with that, people.
That's a classic teenage fantasy.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Well, my favorite Gundam series is Gundam Wing of all time. So I was excited a little bit for this one, but somebody realized if you're using children to fight wars, then you're no better than warlords in Africa.
Yeah.
And so this whole premise for Gundam Iron Blood Orphans is crappy Mars is like Africa, and these awful corporations have enslaved children to fight in their giant robots in a very sort of guerrilla Africa sort of way. It is so dark.
Ooh.
It is ridiculous.
Oh, I got to check that out. That sounds like my kind of show.
Seppy likes dark things.
Yeah, I'm
That's
okay
what
with that.
sensing.
It's not for my kids, but I'm up for this. I'm looking for some good grown-up anime. I haven't seen it in a while.
Eventually, I mean, it gets back to the Gundam formula every once in a while. That's when it's not as good.
Yep.
But when it's as self-reflexive about children in war, it is really, I mean, just
That's
sort of as a sort of a meta and an all take of, hey, why are we glorifying these, teenagers fighting wars when ultimately we really would rather have a society where that's not the case.
Right.
But simultaneously, they're running a giant robot anime, so it's like, so that I would recommend. And of course, I'm on episode 740 something of One Piece. Have you guys seen One Piece?
I have not, but I know of it.
Okay, so it's the longest running pirate anime in the history of Japan. It is fantastic. It's about these people who end up eating these what they call cursed fruits, and when you eat a cursed fruit, you can no longer swim. Okay. That's terrible because everything is piratey and on the sea, but it ultimately gives you superpowers. All right. So the magic about One Piece is, and I don't recommend it for anyone. I would say is that you have to literally watch 2 full seasons before you decide if it is for you. And I don't know if the programming finally gets to you, and then you're just into it. But
that is interesting.
But
that is a ringing endorsement. This show is epic, except don't watch it.
Well, for example, the bad guy for this season, and by this season I mean
season 700,
they run about two a year, so they do 50 episodes a year. For the last, I would say 90 episodes or somewhere around there, the bad guy has been Steven Tyler and Tyler Durden.
Okay.
So there's nothing that this anime writer will not put into his world, and it's genius. Eventually, you're like, oh my god! It isn't the fact that he's taking these things; it's how he makes them seamlessly part of this menagerie that he has got going on. It is crazy.
All right, One Piece.
But you have to watch 2 full seasons before you even decide if you like it.
Which is 200 episodes, apparently.
It's 100 episodes. You gotta watch 100 episodes
just to get a taste.
Before you decide whether or not this anime is for you.
Right.
And how long is an episode again?
It's 25 minutes. I mean, if it was commercials, it's half an hour.
Right.
But there's a little bit up front in that sort of Dragon Ball Z sort of way that you just cut out. So I would say there's probably, if you're cutting all the stuff that's superfluous out.
If you're trying to churn through 100 episodes.
It's on 16 minutes, I would guess. So, okay. I mean, it is fantastic. It will outlive me. The fact is, according to the writer, he got halfway through this, what he considers the story, at year 11 or 10.
Wow.
And it was 500 some episodes in.
Wow.
It's crazy.
So he's doing an epic here. He's doing a saga, which is
true. I mean, they have a part of the Universal theme park in Tokyo has an entire One Piece wing. One Piece is amazing. It's sort of a spectacle. It's not the longest running anime. There's two animes, or a couple animes that are longer. One is Case Closed, and another one is the Japanese fairy tales or folk tales. Mm-hmm. But it's this thing that has become such a part of my life because it's 16 years into this anime now.
Right.
It's crazy.
Did you start watching it when it first came out? So you've been going along with it the whole time?
Not at first. I had to catch up a little. I found it when it was in English, and 16 years ago, that's like Pirates of the Caribbean, where pirates were this huge thing for everybody.
Right.
Remember?
Yes.
And so,
by the way, it's Vikings now. If you hadn't heard, Vikings are the new zombies.
Zombies.
Vikings are it. So we've moved on from pirates, but it's good to know that the anime guys are still in the pirate mode.
Well, no, they aren't. It's just this one. This is now sort of institutionalized.
Have they gone? Have they been around long enough to kind of bring in the other genres so that zombies show up and ninjas show up? And do we have Vikings yet?
Vikings have been, yeah.
Okay.
We've seen a lot of Vikings.
So they're more avant-garde than you might think. They had Vikings probably a couple years before they were famous, really.
I'm pretty sure that this series will finish up when pirates are a big thing again.
Oh, that's about it's a generation, so 20 years usually.
Yeah, it's gonna be about 20. I'll be dead.
Okay,
but this is something I would literally come back from the dead just to finish.
Wow. Speaking of zombies,
I gotta see the end of One Piece.
You could be a Viking zombie.
That's a lot of my nerdery is in and around that era. For people looking for something more disposable in anime, I would also highly recommend One Punch Hero. It's about a superhero who's so bored because he defeats anything with one punch.
All right.
Oh, wow.
It's fantastic. It's so meta, but it is fantastic.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for the anime update. We haven't had one in a long time, so that's good stuff. Thank you. All right. Excellent. So, Craig, what about you? What have you been watching lately or reading or whatever?
See. Well, Black Sails is back.
Yeah, you liking season? What are we in, 2 now or 3?
I'm loving season. I think we're in season 3 or 4 now.
Right.
It's great. All the characters are really established. I just love it. Pirates. Can't get enough pirates.
I agree.
Yes. Agent Carter, I'm enjoying that.
I am too. Did you see the episode where she put her little posse together and they had that little slow motion, the heroes walking down the street? That was an excellent episode. I really enjoyed that.
That was a great episode.
That was my favorite one of the season so far.
Vikings is back. So
Yes.
I'm sort of enjoying that. I'm a little concerned that Ragnar Lothbrok is laid up in bed or wounded severely. So
spoilers, dude. Spoilers. I'm still in season 1.
He was almost
spoilers.
I can't be held responsible for spoiling something you started to watch 3 years late.
Yes. Well.
Yeah. So there you go. Okay. Spoiler alert, Russ. Ragnar gets wounded.
Oh, darn it.
He's a Viking that gets wounded. The only real spoiler there is that he's still alive at the beginning of season.
That actually is a spoiler, but he's also the main character, so you got to figure.
Yeah, that'd be kind of hard. And then The Walking Dead just started up. The Walking Dead has had its first massive spoiler fail for me. Speaking of spoilers, in that there was a pivotal scene in the season second half premiere. And it must have been panel for panel right out of the comic.
Mm-hmm.
Because right after the first part of the season finale, somebody went online, one of these big bloggers went online and was like, this is exactly what's going to happen, and described exactly what ended up happening.
Well, why would you read that?
And because I was curious, because I was like, oh my God, massive cliffhanger. This is crazy. And I usually avoid that stuff like the plague. But this one, you know how sometimes spoilers can sneak up on you?
Yes.
and you don't realize you're reading it till you start, and then you're like, oh, now I got to finish.
Yeah.
So it was weird, and they really just that scene, the way they filmed it was bizarre and emotionally detached, and it was weird. But
right.
so it's interesting.
One question.
Yes, sir.
Did you guys do Marco Polo on Netflix?
No.
I started watching it. Well, here's my plan with Marco Polo. So I figured, this show, it looks like a historical, educational kind of show. So I think I'll watch it with one of my daughters. And 30 seconds in, there's heads on pikes. And I decided that I would not watch it any longer. And my youngest daughter's like, Dad, this is brilliant. There's heads on pikes. I don't think I want to watch this. And I'm like, all right. But that's the opposite of me, because at 11, I'd have been like, ooh, can I watch more heads on pikes? So I don't
Right,
know.
yeah.
But how far did you get in Marco Polo, Seppy?
Oh, no, I recommend it. I'd like to hear your guys' take on it.
I
They
gotta watch
also
it.
have a prequel that they launched that was just like a one-episode satellite before the next season.
I got to watch it because I generally like those kind of shows, and I just had to stop because of my dog.
If you like Game of Thrones...
All right, in. Sold.
See, there you go.
Sold.
Movies. I did go and see Deadpool, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't as funny as I thought it was going to be, based on everybody in the universe telling me it was going to be ridiculously funny.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Right. Well, there you go.
It's ridiculously
but I enjoyed
funny.
it.
It was awesome.
And then I had my strangest game night ever last night, and it resulted in me ending up at the movies I had seen everything, and it was between Star Wars for the 6th time or that movie 13 Hours. So I went and saw 13 Hours, and the acting.
Should have watched Deadpool again. That was a mistake.
I should have. I was in the middle of
It's
it. I'm like,
funnier the
13
second
hours. It's
time.
an interesting story, but it's an interesting,
Yeah.
hour-long news story. It's not the act. Poor Jim from The Office did not do his career any good in that movie, and yeah, it was just one of those, we're gonna blatantly push every emotional button. I was like, yeah, okay. I get it. Interesting story, but I wish I was watching bullet casings fly out of a gun with numbers on the bottoms of them to help me track the numbers. Anyway, I'm continuing to re-listen to The Expanse on Audible, and I'm loving it because I didn't have to rebuy it because I bought it once and it's in my library forever. Russ, how would people get a free 30-day trial subscription to Audible if they want to join me in this wonderfulness?
What you want to do is head over to the D6generation.com and click the Audible link on the right-hand side. The big logo there.
And by that, I mean the company Audible, it's not a link that is actually able to be listened.
No. And you click on that, it'll take you to audible.com, the website, and it will give you a deal on Audible that you get through the D6 generation, including 30-day free trial and 1 credit for a book of your choice that you keep forever, even if you cancel.
Yep. So you can listen to it again and again, like I'm listening to The Expanse.
Exactly right. And I love Audible as well. So so you're now, Craig, I'll just jump in here with one of my things. So I finished watching The Expanse season.
Okay.
And I got caught up. So the big scene on Ios, how that happens.
Yep. Eros.
Yeah, Eros, whatever it is, the space station with the I guess it's a slight spoiler if you haven't read the book. But we're talking about the book now. So, the proto-molecule situation's going on, right?
Yes. Yep.
Did you find that whole scene to be less graphic in the TV show than you'd imagined it in the book?
To me, that smacked of that's the first time I've seen the sci-fi TV show budget in effect. Yeah,
because in the book, they're called, spoiler alert. I'm going to spoil something right now, so fast forward 30 seconds. They're called, they start to call them vomit zombies, right? They're supposed to be spewing black goo from their
because
orifices.
Their insides are being liquefied, and the virus is causing them to spew that liquefied virus.
There's only the slightest tip of that happening, and so here I am ready to be freaked out any moment. I'm never freaked out at all. I'm like, this
there
is
was
tame,
no freaking,
right?
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be really, really gross, which is important for later in the because the dichotomy of what it starts and what it becomes is now it's going to be like they're kind of making it beautiful from the beginning. I don't know. I
see that.
I don't know. Anyway,
the corpse of the girl in the shower is kind of disturbing.
Yeah, but not as nearly as it is in the book. Like in the book, and there's no visuals in the book, but in the book you're imagining like really nasty stuff going on.
Yeah, they describe more about her body's condition in the book than they did they did to it in the movie.
And when they go into the ship they find, right? And it's been taken over and they find the girl's body and everything, and they get down to the reactor. Even that was pretty tame in the show, and in the book, I'm imagining like this sort of like, you know.
Well, in the book, the captain's head like turns around.
Like
and goes,
there's body parts sticking out. Yeah, there's like a whole like scene. It's like almost something out of like.
Well, you know what? I think you hit the nail on the head when you said they've made it too beautiful too soon.
Yes, because late. Yeah, right. Spoiler, but yes.
No, I don't know. I don't want to know.
No. That's it. I'm just.
You know what I'm saying?
I think they made a bad call.
Yes.
I think, and I mean that's one aspect of the story, and not even a major aspect. Russ is actually complaining because they've missed one very deep, like structural level element to this overall story.
Well, it's an emotional roller coaster in the book that I think they've sort of.
But that particular roller coaster is not central to the story, and I think they're going.
All right.
I think they've proven that they're focusing more on the characters and you know, they're so it's
but
more of a
zombies are so hot right now.
But I would have liked to see some zombies.
I would have liked sci-fi zombies. We didn't have that in this.
You think it's a missed opportunity?
I do, because zombies are hot, even though they're not Vikings. It would have been hot to have zombies, or put horned helmets on them and go with Vikings. But a little something for the the fans.
That's true.
What about space pirates
with ice? See what I did there? So you go back and listen to.
Bing, bing,
we
bing,
didn't even
bing.
talk about ice pirates.
80s, ladies and
we didn't
gentlemen.
even talk about ice pirates in an episode. That's a whole miss. We got to redo ice pirates.
Little teaser for the for the lost chapter right there.
Anywho,
oh my god, we could do a whole thing just on ice pirates.
Right.
And we could. Space herpes. Anyway.
God.
So continuing on.
All right.
So listening to The Expanse, grinding through S, that J.J. Abrams endorsed book.
Are you enjoying that?
I'm still trying. I'm trying because the concept is so amazing, and I can't not at least finish it. But it is so grueling, and every time the story starts to pick up, and then it goes back to the original mystery, which is not all that interesting. But that ties into my strangest game night ever, again, which I'll talk about in a moment. I'm also reading The Walking Dead, the comics, the graphic novels. I borrowed the first 10 from Rafe, thinking that Rafe projects himself as a huge fan of The Walking Dead, so he's got to have them all, right? Wrong. He's got less than half of them. So I borrowed all of them, and I was like, where's the next 10? And he's like, I don't have any more. I'm going to borrow them from you when you buy them. And I'm like, no, Rafe, I'm not going to buy them. That's ridiculous. So, yeah. Anyway, so they sell these things called the Compendium, which is 8 volumes per compendium, and there's only 3 compendiums. And instead of the $80+ it would cost to get all the compendiums individually, their cover price is $50, and you can get them online for around $30. So I went and I did it, and had all kinds of bizarre Amazon Prime issues, but that's neither here nor there. So Rafe was right, and I went, and now I have a big giant chunk of Walking Dead book. And the story's good. I don't know. I could fill a.
Is it $90 worth good though? Because you bought 3 compendiums at $30.
No, I did not buy 3 compendiums. I bought 1 compendium.
Oh, okay, just checking.
And then I made, because of the Amazon Prime snafu, I actually get $10 off my next purchase, which will probably be the 3rd and final compendium.
All right.
So, but I'll get that for much cheaper.
All right.
But anyway, so I'm reading that. I'm enjoying it. I don't know. It's neat. It's more of a neat exercise reading it and sort of experiencing it as I remember the TV show.
Okay.
Is more than anything else.
All right.
And let's see. I blinged out my Walking Dead beta set, so that was fun. I got all kinds of cool little beads and stuff. I'm finishing up my new super secret Fantasy Flight Games writing assignment, which is really, really cool. And I think lots of people are going to be really intrigued when it comes out. So I'm super excited to be involved in that. I got to pick my next assignment for another cool, exciting project that I can't talk anything about, but it's super, super cool and has something to do with pirates. And my
I'm aboard.
See, there you go.
Pirates.
And my strangest game night ever. I thought everybody was on vacation and nobody was going to be around to game. Turns out everybody was around, except for a couple guys. But everybody had plans for games that I had either was not a part of or had no interest in. So I got really frustrated and aggravated and had a weird emotional moment, and I took my copy of S, the book filled with things, and I brought it to Shorty's, and I sat in the lounge alone with this book thinking, hey, I've done it when I'm on the road, right? So this can't be that weird. I'm sitting in the lounge with this giant book full of things. So every time you open it, things fall out. And I order what I normally order at Shorty's, which is their delicious chili and then 1/3 order of whiskey ribs. And then I'm thinking, I can't eat ribs and read a book at the same time. It's insane. So that was awful. So I just sat there and texted people the whole time, which was ridiculous. And then I went to the movies, and like I said, there wasn't anything I wanted to see playing, so I went and saw 13 Hours because I was damned if I was going to give up my night out. So anyway,
Smart.
that was my weirdest game night ever. So that's it for me. Russ, what about you?
Well, we talked
now
about
now that we're well into our third hour.
Right. Well, I am listening to the 4th book in the Iron Druid series. Still enjoying that book a lot.
Yeah.
The dog is awesome. That's all I got to say about that. Also, talked about Expanse already. Talked about XCOM 2. Started watching Vikings with my daughter actually while we were painting. We're really enjoying that. So my oldest daughter, who's 13, totally into Vikings. So we're really
Good
enjoying
show.
that.
It's a good show.
And the other thing I wanted to talk about was, Seppy, are you watching the latest season of X-Files?
You know, I like Gillian Anderson a lot, and I really loved her in Hannibal. I mean, if you guys didn't see Hannibal,
Yes.
Brian, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I knew this was going to be bad, and I have steered clear.
It's not bad. Here's the thing, okay? If you check Rotten Tomatoes, they got it right. So the first episode's like a 30, and the last
not good.
episode's like a 30. But all the ones in the middle, 2 through 5, are 80 or 90 above.
Really?
And that's exactly right. So what happened was, the very first episode, they decided to set up some major story arc stuff, connecting all back to all the other major story arcing stuff. Dull. The last episode, they decided to conclude with that. But the middle ones were all like one-off episodes of the X-Files. They were fantastic. Like just weird stuff, just unrelated, just like a one-off episode. There was even one where you had a cameo from the Lone Gunman. It was great. It was fantastic. So good stuff. But the last episode, specifically, WTF, dude. The ending of that, I don't want to spoil anything except to say I don't know, I think they know they're going to be doing more. So I think it's a joke or some kind of play that they were only going to do these 6. So that's my theory. Because I actually enjoyed it this season. I found it very enjoyable, worth watching. And I even kind of I'm curious where the main story's going, but it's kind of like, I don't like how they ended it. So anyway, I'm hopeful that there'll be more. But the middle episodes 2 through 5, and you can watch them without watching the first or the 6th because they're completely self-contained and they're fantastic.
That's what I'm going to do then.
Yes, I would do that. I would recommend that. So, all right. So, is that achievements?
That is achievements.
I hope so. It's a lot of achievements.
So here's the final score. Ripley has 147 victory points. Hicks has 132. I have 117. And Hudson has 87. That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over. What the frick are we going to do now? Put the game away.
Hey, you know what that sound means? That's the sound of the wolf, and it's time to talk about our friends at wolflair.com. That's right, the folks that do all the great software over at Lone Wolf Development.
Every one of them supporting your games, no matter what kind of game you play.
Whether it's Army Builder to make sure you can crank out those really complicated miniature war game lists that require you to manage every gear on every guy and all the different squad building rules and all the army composition rules and making sure it all works. Just throw an Army Builder, pop them right in, download the data files, and bam, you're playing all your great miniature games, cranking out the armies. Simple, easy, reference materials right there. You print them right out, ready to go, ready to rock, and you're playing the game, not trying to look things up all.
That's right. What if you're doing collectible games? Almost any of those collectible games out there, collectible miniatures games, which Pathfinder is still doing, I just found out. Collectible card games. They've got Card Vault. Anything that's collectible, you can plug in your entire collection in a card vault. It helps you set up your force for any given game or tournament. It keeps track of your entire collection right there in one place, so you know what you own, you know what you want to trade, you might want to know what in different categories, what you want to put together. It's a great way for you to put together your decks or your forces for any of those kind of games.
But the big news, Craig, the big news is for their other two products, Hero Lab and Realmworks, right? Hero Lab is a great character creator for all your favorite RPGs, and Realmworks is a great way for game masters to manage their worlds. Well, the new 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons SRD just hit the streets, which means companies like Lone Wolf can now easily grab that information and put it into their software. And Lone Wolf Development has done this now. And so you can create D&D characters with the Hero Lab quick and easy, and also you can create worlds in 5th edition very easily as well. So if you're a Dungeons & Dragons player, that's all there. And of course, they have a very close partnership with the Pathfinder folks. They also have great stuff for Pathfinder in Hero Lab and Realmworks as well. And as well as many, 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 many other great RPGs also. So if you're a role player, you really owe it to yourself to head on over to wolflayer.com and check out Realmworks, Hero Lab, and for miniature gamers, check out Army Builder.
And don't forget Cardbolt.
And now, in an attempt to bring a small amount of dignity and decorum to this otherwise base form of entertainment, and I use the term loosely, I am proud to present...
Oh, get on with it. It's time for App of the Ep.
Seriously, Wakeland, I used to have my own segment, now I'm relegating to announcing this pap...
Hey, you're lucky we still use you. Hey, and welcome to another App of the Ep. This time around, I want to talk about Rocket League. Rocket League is not a new game. It's been around on Steam for quite some time, but it is recently launched on the console, so PS4 and Xbox One. And for these kinds of games, I really prefer them on the console for wacky, quick, fun games. And I don't know if you're not familiar with Rocket League, the concept, well, to be frank, sounds kind of dumb. The concept of this game is soccer with cars. And the reason it works is due to a lot of subtlety and extremely well-polished, high-production value gameplay. So what do I mean by that? Well, in this match, you're in a large arena, enclosed with walls, so you can't escape. In fact, there's a domed, sort of translucent ceiling as well. So there's no way anything from the arena can escape, so kind of like indoor soccer. And at two ends are very large goals. And there's a giant ball in the middle. For those of you who know War Machine, think grind, like a giant, massive ball in the center. And then teams consist typically of 3 cars per side. The team sizes can actually range from 1 to 4 per side, but the typical match is 3 cars per side. And each player races around the match. There are no weapons, so the only way to move the ball is to ram it with your car. The ball is bigger than your car, quite a bit. So when you hit the underside of the ball tends to pop in the air, kind of like kicking under it when you kick a soccer ball. Now, there's a couple quick controls. There's not very many controls in the game. You can accelerate. You can go backwards. Of course, you can steer like a car, so the typical car controls. But in addition, you have a jump button, which kind of allows you to double jump. And you can boost, and boost is collected by running around in the court or on the field. There are several little glowy spots, and if you run over them, it'll recharge your boost meter. Thus, the rocket for rocket ball. And so, if you jump and then boost while you hit the ball, you can kind of hit it in the center and keep it on the ground. What's interesting about it is all the subtleties in it. So that's the basics of gameplay, and it sounds rather dull, but after you start playing it for a while, you realize that when you're jumping, if you tap while you're in midair, you jump a little higher, or if you're jumping and you move the joystick to the left, your car will roll left or spin. And so as you fly by the ball, you can leap into the air to block that shot, or spin your car slightly and hit it with the rear quarter panel and get some spin on the ball. So the physics, while unrealistic because, cars in soccer, and you can drive on the wall, there's like wall driving and things. You can actually drive almost completely inverted on the ceiling as well. So there's all this craziness that happens, but it just works. I don't know how else to describe it. You have to kind of play it to appreciate it. And the production's really cool. There's a lot of things that keep you going. It's one of those games that you play in about 5 minutes, but there's a couple of features I really, really like. First of all, my girls get engaged, particularly my youngest girl, Kit. So my oldest daughter, Rose, she's more my modeler and painter. My younger daughter, Kit, Rose likes video games too, and of course Kit likes board games, but Kit really likes the video games, especially the fast and fun ones. And so Rocket League really appealed to her as well. One of the things that keeps you going in this game is after every match, win or lose, you unlock some little gizmo and you can customize the heck out of these cars. I haven't really figured out, honestly, and maybe someone can let me know, if there's any performance difference. There's a bunch of different bodies of cars you can unlock. There are a bunch of different tires you can unlock. You can put hats on the top of your car for no apparent reason, but you can put the Cake from Portal on top, or a wizard's hat, or a boombox or whatever. So it's got all this wackiness going on, right? You can adjust the paint patterns of your car. There's different graphics for your car. There's antenna, things you stick on the top of your antenna that wave around. There's flags you can stick. All these little diddly things that really don't have. I feel like it's all cosmetic, although we are starting to believe that certain cars have slightly more mass, so they're harder to bump or slightly faster, but I'm not really sure. I can't tell if that's just perceived or real. But it's just a lot of fun. And the other thing about the game I really like, my favorite feature is, I think I've talked on the show before, how I really like couch co-op games. So I really like that you can play a split screen version of this. And what's really cool is they do a fantastic job with couch play on the consoles. So you sit down on the couch, you and two daughters or two family members fire this thing up. And what's great is you can customize your car, all three of you at a time. A lot of these games, when you go to customize mode, right? You go to a separate screen, and now player one's got to wait for player two to customize. This is really a problem, actually, in Diablo for the consoles, right? If someone's kitting out their character, you got to wait. But in Rocket League, what's really cool is all three cars are shown on the screen at the same time, and all of you can customize your cars at the same time. So after a quick match, you all unlock some cool stuff you want to go see what it looks like. It's very much a mutual, a joint adventure where you're like, oh, look at my new hat. Oh, cool, look at my new wheels. So it's just a lot of fun. The second part about it that's really cool is you can play split screen against other players online who are playing either split screen or other individual players. So this was something they took out of the latest version of Halo that made me very sad, which was in former versions of Halo, you could play split screen, jump into a match online, and you and who's ever in the room with you can be yelling and screaming and having a great time together while you play others online. They took that out in Halo, the latest version of Halo, and I was really disappointed. In fact, it's really to the point where we don't play much online Halo. We go back to the older versions to play it for exactly that reason. Rocket League does this masterfully. So 3 or 4 or 2 of you can be online together. And if the 3 of us are together, since the typical game size is 3 per team, now we just hit a button and we're instantly playing against other teams online, playing against other people, and it's just the 3 of us having a great time. And we can play casual matches, we can play ranked matches, and just unlocking things, having a blast. It doesn't seem to matter. It's just a lot of fun. So check this game out. It's available on Xbox One, PS4, and Steam. And that is Rocket League. I know there's a lot of old veterans out there going, yeah, I've been playing it forever. It's fantastic. But if you're a console fan, now's the time to check this game out. It's well worth the small price tag. I think around $20 on Xbox. So Rocket League, check it out.
Thank you for listening to another scintillating edition of App of the App, a segment in which,
Hey, less of that. More just getting on with the show.
seriously, Wakeland, you are like school in summer. No class.
Hey, welcome back. And now, since we have Seppy here on the show today, Craig,
Who is clearly an expert at marketing of the gorilla variety.
or at least gorillas, right? Seppy, is that fair? Is that fair to say?
I can confirm nor deny any intimate contact with primates.
Okay, fair. So we thought we'd talk about
that court order still got you tied down?
It does. It does.
Gotcha.
Underage gorillas have more rights than you think.
So
That went dark very quickly.
It did. Images are being conjured even as we speak. I think also there may be a game in there someplace. Just,
Yeah. My partners hate that. I'm like, and then I want to write a game about this. And they're like, sit down and do what you're supposed to.
Stay on target. And later we're going to be talking more about your Kickstarter, right? But I think it'd be great to talk a lot about, one of the key things to really getting to promoting your Kickstarter or really anything is how to properly market this stuff. How do you get the word out, right? But there's a kind of marketing that I think we see more and more of in general. And I thought it'd be fun to talk about this. And that's the idea of guerrilla marketing. And now, Craig, I know you may not consider yourself an expert on guerrilla marketing.
Not an expert, no.
Yeah. But could you maybe, I've got the definition here, sort of the Wikipedia, if you will, definition of guerrilla marketing. Craig, could you read us sort of a dramatic reading of
Oh, I get it. You're you're throwing me a bone. That's very nice, Russ. Well, Russ, it's funny you should ask. Guerrilla marketing is an advertising strategy concept designed for businesses to promote their products or services in an unconventional way with little budget to spend. This involves high energy and imagination, focusing on grasping the attention of the public in more personal and memorable ways. For instance, no, never mind.
Great, perfect. And does that definition, Seppy, kind of match what you think about when you think about guerrilla marketing?
Yeah. It's how do you get past the constant noise of marketing that people are just submerged in without having the budget to spend that the rest of these people who are drowning you in marketing are spending.
Exactly. How do you get it out in front? And I think you're seeing this more and more in general, because I think we're starting to see conventional advertising, kind of start to not be as effective, right? So, people can fast forward through commercials now or skip them altogether or watch the shows without them. So how do you get your brand recognition or your products out in front of people if those kind of conventional ways of advertising are changing, right?
Right.
Or what if you don't have a lot of money to spend on a $4 million Super Bowl commercial, right? That's the problem.
Yeah. That's exactly where I am. You guys can see my Super Bowl commercial next year.
Oh, good. Excellent. So what are some... And of course, what are some examples that you've done in the past, Seppy? How have you started to try to, sort of infuse guerrilla marketing into some of your tactics?
Well, the number one thing is it can be really personal, okay? For us, guerrilla marketing is making a connection through hard work and actual people and community building rather than some really catchy, really flashy something that we hope becomes a meme. Does that make sense?
Yes, I see what you're saying there. So, and we'll get more into some of those examples maybe in a little bit, but I think that's a great way to put it. How do you get people engaged without doing a conventional sort of advertisement? And what you're really kind of a hope for, right, is you're really hoping that whatever you do becomes so interesting that it goes viral, right? Is that kind of what you guys are hoping for?
It can be the case. I mean, the best version of guerrilla viral marketing, I would have to say, are those Deadpool billboards. I don't know if you guys saw those in memes and coming around, like his Valentine's ad and his pile of poo with the skull in front of it and an L at the end, and then just the date, so people had to figure these things out, and then just getting a picture of it, and then everybody like laughing their brains out. Or more importantly, in the sort of guerrilla marketing sense for the Deadpool movie, was those cancer spots for testicular screening, and those are an example where he's spending a very little money, he's helping out a cause, and everybody's laughing their way to mutual success.
Good example. One other one I always think about when I think about guerrilla marketing and trying to get them to go viral, and only if you're a Halo fan would you get this. So of course, now Halo is a AAA title, and Bungie's and Microsoft have tons of money, so they obviously can do all kinds of crazy things. But listeners, and I don't know if Seppy, do you remember the I Love Bees thing?
Mm-hmm.
So I Love Bees was sort of a website, and it looked like it was a site about bees, but when you started researching it, what it really turned out to be was a game that you could do different things on and follow all the hidden clues, and you would learn more and more about the new Halo game, which at that time was Halo 2. So it was sort of like, but what happened was it went viral because it's like, what is this about? Why is it like this? It was almost like sort of a secret message, right? And so you got really people engaged with it, but there wasn't any like giant billboard that said, go to ilovebees.com. There wasn't any kind of driver for it. It just sort of happened, and people started talking about it, and you got a lot of buzz, and it went viral because it was sort of this, no one had ever done anything like that before.
It's also like you're giving away somebody something for free.
Right.
I mean, that's the, you inspire people to want to like participate and celebrate and laugh, and that's how to make it happen. For me, going really way back down to the grassroots level, and I would consider this guerrilla marketing. Do you guys remember the win-lose banana guy at Gen Con?
Oh, yes. Yeah, but go ahead and describe it for listeners. I do remember what you're talking about.
So he's a guy who's got like this big like shoulder sack of cards, and he'll walk up to you and say, hey, do you want to play win-lose banana? And present the 3 cards, and you're supposed to pick one. If you pick win, he immediately gives you a copy of the game, which is the 3 cards.
Right.
If you grab the banana, he just lets you take the banana. And if you lose, he takes all this. You take lose, he takes all the cards back and says, "Hey, I'm sorry you didn't win anything. Do you want a copy of the game?" And you and he's so charming, and like you're so caught off guard by this whole situation. You say, "How much is it?" Because that's of course your first reaction. And then he says $1, and you immediately go, "Okay, I'll just give you $1." That's amazing. And so he's made tens of thousands of dollars doing this at these conventions. Wow. It's crazy. I think like the last record, report, it was something over $30,000 last time I heard. Wow. Yeah, wow. I mean, $1 at a time.
Right. That's amazing. What a clever thing. And I think that's a really great example of how you can drive sort of, remembering. And you think about that, like you're seeing more and more of that at gaming conventions in general, right? And like one of the not so subtle ways is just like giant versions of the games, right? I keep noticing these more and more at Gen Con where there's the full-size Dungeons and Dragons you can play in, or the full, the really big versions of Catan or whatever other games are lying around. And all of a sudden, you're playing that game, and you're realizing, why is there a giant version of the Star Trek Catan? Oh, there's Star Trek Catan here. I might go pick that up after I play this, right? You just all of a sudden, you're engaged with it in a way that you wouldn't have been if someone just had a poster up that said, buy Star Trek Catan, right?
And for conventions, nothing draws a crowd like a crowd.
Right.
And so anything that gets people to sort of gather around to something is really exciting. For us, we do something sort of tangential to all that. I mean, we made we made it to conventions. We were really going to work it by grassroots. Mm-hmm. And so how we paid for conventions was Squirrel or Die, which that's how you guys got introduced to us.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Yep.
All right. We have zero money. And so we didn't do Squirrel or Die to make money. We made Squirrel or Die so that we could go and community build and do marketing of the guerrilla variety.
Clever.
Neat. So you had a game to be able to market other games, essentially.
Right. We had a plan. That plan got sort of sidetracked, and we'll talk about that when we talk about end of the line. But, producing something first so people could, number one, get used to the idea that you're around, and number two, being able to demo something. I get to spend some time at Protospiel. Do you guys have those out in the East Coast?
No, not that I'm aware of. There might be one.
Okay.
What is it?
It's basically like a game designer mini convention.
Okay, yeah.
So when I got to go there, it was a few weeks ago, the number one feedback that I like to give other designers is that your demo is really your number one way to connect with a person. Mm-hmm. Okay? They're going to be more honest with you if they like you. They're going to give your game more of a chance if they like you. They're going to give everything sort of more of the benefit of the doubt if you provide them a good time. Okay?
Right.
So at the Protospiel, I get to play like a dozen games in concept, all the way up from things that were finished and ready to kickstart to things that were really conceptual pieces of paper and things that people had written that weekend. And over again, it comes up with this idea that how you present your demo is your first opportunity to win somebody over into your community. And I mean, that's how I got onto your show.
Right, exactly.
I gave you my 7 most fabulous minutes at Adepticon. So
yeah.
It does work.
They were great minutes, though.
Well, I think that's exactly right. I think you got to get, a good demo, and I think you'll see a lot of the most successful game booths at conventions really have folks and founders who are really able to, get you engaged, get you playing their game, and really have a lot of fun. If they're really excited about their game, that excitement is contagious, right?
Right, absolutely. So for the guerrilla marketing perspective of being a sort of a game designer trying to do grassroots, the very first thing is the hook. Okay, it's the in 6 seconds or less, can you get the person to pay attention enough to you to ask them, even get to the point to ask them to play your demo?
Right.
Okay, so for us, Squirrel or Die is, hey, do you want to try a 7-minute demo? And they're like, what? A game that plays 7? Yeah, it's about surviving as a squirrel in winter. For End of the Line, it's, hey, post-apocalyptic family survival. And people are like, what is this thing? And then, of course, coming up is Conquest Princess, Pew Pew Pew, which its name alone is just
the name's all you need in that one. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so for guerrilla marketing, and particularly for the gaming community and people who are designing games, this idea that you're setting up a narrative so that you can make your game attractive and approachable to people so that they will give you what's most precious in life, which is time.
Right.
I mean, at a convention, time is just so precious. And you need to be so respectful of the people who are giving up this thing, not even talking about money. This time at the conventions or for play testing or at their local game store, this thing that you're asking from them, you've got to be really respectful of it. Does that make any sense?
It totally does. And I think it's really cool that you understand that, because I think a lot of demos, especially early demoers, they want to give you the full demo of the entire game. And that's great if you got a really short game like Scroll or Die. But if you have a longer game and you're trying to give people a taste of it, they're not going to be able to sit there for an hour and learn your game.
Right.
So you've got to figure out a way to capture the essence of your, even if you've got a game that's really designed to be enjoyed in a Saturday afternoon, you got to figure a way to distill that down and get the person to the point of the game really pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And one great thing about sort of the grassroots like demoing, if you run a good demo, in the very viral sense of the word, people will bring their friends to come and experience your demo.
Right. Exactly.
So,
yeah, even if it's just fun, because part of it's got to be the experience itself. Like, oh my God, that guy that demos it is so hilarious. You just got to go play this game to watch him be crazy. And by the way, the game might be cool too. I don't even know, right? Kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Right. There's a little bit of that going on.
Yeah.
A good game makes a good demo, but a bad demo can kill a good game.
Right. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And we've seen it happen.
Many times. Yes.
We did it last night.
We did.
What did you guys play last night?
Well, we ran, just aside, so here's a good example, right? So we ran Beyond the Gates of Antares at Captain Con, and it went fantastic.
Big success.
Huge,
Big success.
Great demo, 10 people engaged.
2 hours. Everybody was engaged the whole time.
Yeah, now they knew they were going to get it for a 2-hour thing, but it really had a blast. So a local game store owner,
it was a 2-hour event. It wasn't like a standard demo.
Right. So a local game store owner was like, that looks like a lot of fun. Would you run it in our store? We're like, sure, of course we will. So we happened to be in town. It's like, yeah. So we came in and do it. And for some reason, just, whatever happened, the way side A executed their plan and the way some of the dice bounced, the way side B was kind of a little more laissez-faire about things, side A won in like 15 minutes. So they kind of came in and ready to do this thing. And really, I think Craig and I should have been a little more engaged in what was happening in the game, so we could have kind of nudged things in the right direction. And so it ended up being so short that I think a lot of people didn't get a taste for the game. And that was
it was an entire miniatures game that was over in 20 minutes.
Right.
Oh my God,
which was too short.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, one side was really focused on the mission and actually playing the game. The other side was like, oh, cool, these guys can do this. Oh, they can do that, and just kind of like scattering like kittens over the battlefield.
But, speaking of guerrilla marketing and miniature games, this is an important part, too. Terrain is a great way to get people to stop at your booth, right?
Oh, my God.
I say this because it just happened at the game store last night. So, the cool thing about this game store is we're there, and we're demoing Antares. Meanwhile, the guys that came to watch the Antares demo were also demoing the new, DC Marvel miniature game.
The Batman
one. So, while I turn around and Craig and I are talking about our thing, what to do when we come back, this guy's got like a whole, elevated subway, train up over the city, and Batman and Batgirl and Robin are all standing on top of it, beautiful painted models. And we're like, ooh. So I'm like staring at this thing. I don't even know how the rules work. And I was going to ignore this because I'm not really a big superhero miniature game guy, but I'm like, wait a minute, this just looks cool. And then he's telling me the rules, and he's talking about how you play in your moves. I'm like, well, that sounds pretty cool. And he had me totally engaged just because he had an elevated train.
Production values. You were pulled in by the production values.
Exactly. And that's
that train was pretty darn cool looking.
And that's why you see a lot of miniature companies spend a lot of money on the tables, right? Like you walk by the Weird booth at Gen Con, or you walk by, any of the major miniature gaming companies, they've spent a lot of money on these little demo tables, right? That look fantastic with trees and buildings. They don't sell those trees and buildings. They're selling the models that play on them, but they have this great table to get your imagination fired up, so you stop and stare. Maybe you overhear some of the excitement, and all of a sudden you're engaged in a game that you really just stop to look at the cool trees.
Yep, it's the hook.
Yeah, exactly.
The hook.
Hook. So what are some examples you guys have had with have you had anything go viral? How did you, at any levels, and how did that work out for you?
We haven't quite been lucky enough. I mean, the best we've gotten is 2 Captain Cons, the one that was in the fall. Mm-hmm. We ended up having a 45-minute wait. So people just stood around and pointed and laughed, waiting for their chance to play.
That's awesome.
And as soon as people stood around and there was people playing and everybody's having a good time, more people were interested in standing around for their. I mean, that goes back to nothing creates a crowd like a crowd.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, we did some cute things like we launched End of the Line on February 15th. Because it's President's Day, and it's about the end of the world, and Donald Trump is running for president, so everybody should get used to it.
Well, that's awesome. So how did you – because another trick that Craig and I use, and I was wondering how you got the line to form. So how did you at the Captain Con, how did you get that line to form and that 45-minute wait to kind of start? Because once you get the line, it grows. But what I found, like what Craig and I have done with our demos, and this almost always works, is – we always put a mechanic in our demos that gets people shouting.
Nice.
So, for example, in Beyond the Gates...
Didn't do that last night.
No. Last night was in a small store and it wasn't very crowded. But like at a con, for example, when we do this, like in Antares, you pull a die out to see whose turn it is. And if it's their color, it's the blue player's turn. If it's the green die, it's the green player's turn. Well, what I would do is when we pull the die out, if the team whose die it was didn't immediately give their battle cry as loud as they could, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, and put the die back in the bag and pick someone else's die out. So that got both sides yelling. And the thing about the yelling is all of a sudden people walking by are going, why are there 10 people over there shouting? That must be cool. Well, this is that noise I was hearing all the way across the room. I'm going to go check this out. And all of a sudden the crowd starts to grow, and we've got Craig's Too Cool Terrain, which is, of course, helping get the crowd grow. People are watching. They don't even know what game we're playing. All of a sudden they were just engaged. So how did you get the line to start to stack before they even, found out about you?
The day before, I'd run some demos, and then I invited some of those people back. That was part of it. Also, I enlisted John Demers because, War Machine people at these conventions are super focused.
Right.
They have to be. I mean, War Machine is incredibly competitive, very complicated, and they go there to play in these tournaments. Mm-hmm. Well, he knew when the sort of lull would be, or who in and amongst those groups would grab the other people. And so he grabbed a couple of key people, and he sat down and played with them. And then as soon as we had broken that ice and they had played, then more people came in, and then people who had from the previous day came back, and then that's sort of how we made it happen.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, never be afraid to demo a game to somebody again and again and again and again. That would be also in my list. Yep. And practicing how you demo things. I mean, even now, our demo is evolving on how I teach End of the Line. It's getting better. Yep.
Would you say that using cons is pretty essential to the marketing process? I mean, is that like almost a must do? Find a way to get yourself to a convention and get your game demoed there.
It's a way to start. I mean, there are a couple of people like John Demers from Muse on Minis, Andrew Chesney from Footsore and Warlords. He's from the Beasts of Wars podcast.
Yep.
That guy in particular, Andrew Chesney, is my spirit animal. I mean, that guy is a beast. Last year, he had 5 days total on weekends that he wasn't at a convention.
Wow.
For the whole year.
Wow.
So the UK has a lot of these mini conventions, and it's like a one-day affair. And so he will be at either 2 a weekend or 3 a weekend if it's on a Friday. Wow. And then he's flying over here for hours and so forth and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the guy's a machine. He is just a machine.
Wow. That's intense. But I can see why it's so valuable, because there is a lot of marketing that happens. And I was thinking about in a tangential industry, the video game industry, one of the things they do for viral marketing there a lot is free swag that you have to wear. So, like, if you think about PAX, I don't know if you've ever gone to PAX before,
yep.
But there's always video game vendors near the entrance giving away, I don't know, giant foam hats or, cardboard cutouts that people wear that are fun, like crazy pirate hats, but they're branded in such a way that it's like, you immediately are identifying that with a particular game, right? And you think about BioShock a few years ago did this, other games do it, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's really cool. And before you know it, half the convention is wearing this crazy green giant hat, and you can't help think about Borderlands, or you can't help think about Fallout, and it just gets it in your head, right? It's almost like a subliminal message every time you turn around.
And again, going back to this community aspect and time, it gets these people to have this huge celebration around your event, your product, your thing that you're doing. That's sort of the core of what guerrilla marketing is. For the game company just starting out, or the designers just starting out, the conventions do a couple of things. Number one, gamers are incredibly tribal.
Yes.
And getting into another tribe and learning the customs of another tribe is sort of a big deal. Mm-hmm. So I went to Moorhead to visit Undead Viking to get him to try End of the Line. Okay, it's like a 3.5 hour drive. So I went out there, and he brought his friends out, and in the middle of End of the Line, they brought up a vendetta that had come up from one of them 30 years ago running a D&D campaign in middle school.
Wow.
That this guy did not give them the heads up they needed to know that it was so important for them to get into this wagon. Otherwise, they were going to lose their opportunity to save the prince or whoever they were saving. Right. And they were all still mad about it 30 years later.
Wow.
But that's a part of the canon of their tribe. Right? So understanding why person A always attacks person B and will never stop, and why it's justified and understood by the whole group, or how these groups are all related to other people is part of this. Mm-hmm. One of the huge things about going to these conventions is that you start building your own community. Mm-hmm. And the magic number for these communities, just from a pure marketing mass standpoint, I used to be a VP of marketing when I was a grown-up. And
You've since
500. I have. I'm like, money.
Right.
I have abandoned all material things and pretense.
But spiritually, you're better off.
I would hope that's the case. But poverty, you gotta take something with your poverty. If you get the moral high ground, that at least that's something.
Right.
So
it's a good view.
500 people who are active participants in your community will generally propagate content.
Yeah.
So if you start building that community one demo at a time.
Right.
Because that is the best way to sort of get it down. And then, of course, at these conventions, you have people who are either doing the same or interested in helping you, or who can give you sort of insight into what the next level is. And these are all great things that conventions give you.
Yep. I think that's right. It gives you that awareness and that recognition. And again, people start becoming familiar with you and your work. And all of a sudden, any game that you're involved with, people at least want to interested. They want to know what's going on. And I think it really, and I kind of want to segue into one of the things I really wanted to make sure we touched upon before we run out of time on this segment, which is how does this tie into crowdfunding, right? Because when you think about the idea that to have a successful Kickstarter, or any kind of crowdfunded event, it really comes down to these different tribes knowing that you're there and wanting to be involved with your thing, right? Yes, you can make a Kickstarter that's a brand new idea that no one's ever heard of, work, but you still got to get the word out. And if you're not spending tons of money marketing, how are people finding out about it, right?
Right. It's getting individual tribes to buy in.
Right.
I mean, conventions are awesome because the people who are usually the most outgoing or most interested in bringing new things back to their clan or tribe are at the conventions.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing to remember about conventions is, and I think this ties into what you're talking about, is not only do they bring it back to their tribe, but these are in many ways the alpha, I call them the alpha geeks, right, who are also very social on social media. So now, not only are they bringing it back to their own tribe, but they're tweeting about it. They're putting it on Facebook. They're putting it on social media. And I saw this happen really quickly with the very first Zombie Side Kickstarter. So Craig and I happened to go to Adepticon the year that they were launching the very first Zombie Side. Now, this was kind of early in the cycle of Kickstarter, so I knew of it, but I hadn't been a lot of success stories on it yet for board games. And if you remember, Zombie Side exploded. And it was the first, holy crap, people are making actual, real serious money on this Kickstarter thing. And it happened while we were at Adepticon, because what was happening was They were demoing it. I played a demo there, and I was like, wow. And I took some pictures, and I tweeted it. And, of course, we have a pretty good following. And so that, and I'm not saying we did this on our own, but we did that. Other miniature gamers did that. And also it was one of the first, the early miniature games is a board game, right? So all these miniature gamers at Adepticon, there's a lot, 2,000 of them, all sitting here going, wow, there's a cool board game that's a miniature game, and you can go buy it now on Kickstarter and get into it. And it started you could just watch as the weekend progressed, their numbers go on Kickstarter just to crank, because all these, alpha geek miniature gamers are sitting here going, there's a board game that appeals to miniature gamers coming out from this company. Look at it. And look at the miniature quality. Look how many miniatures you get in the box. Even if you never play the game, you got enough zombies for any zombie game you're ever going to play here for $60. And that, you could just see it happen. And so that was a really kind of a good example of them just demoing at a convention and all of a sudden it going viral on the internet. And this is I'm trying to remember what year it was, 2011 maybe? So there were still a lot of things going on with Kickstarter then, but all of a sudden it just really blew up.
Right, and zombies were super, super hot in 2011.
Yes, it was also a good year for zombies, right?
Yeah, everybody was like, "Oh, I'm going to be slutty for zombies." Yeah, let's get some zombies. Let's get my zombie on.
Right.
It was for Rick from the Walking Dead. Just got to be so insufferable you couldn't watch him anymore. These kinds of things.
These things happen.
But
I remember that very clearly. And I think that's, to your point. I think one of the great ways. I think a really strong way you can sort of take advantage of a lot of these viral marketing techniques for really, what does it cost you? If you go to one of these larger conventions, it just costs you admission to the convention, airfare, and then a booth, which can seem like a lot of money, but compared to other forms of advertising, is actually pretty affordable, right?
You got to make it affordable.
Yeah.
I mean, I've shared a bed with John Damaris, who literally, when he snores, shakes the entire room. Just because we packed 6 people into the room to make it cost effective. Yeah. You got to find a way to sort of make it happen. There's a lot of work and sacrifices and time into that kind of stuff. But if this is what you want to do, and you're like, hey, I've got a good game or a game that I think is great, what can I do next to take it to the public? Then you do what you got to do. In my family, we call it pulling the rickshaw. It's a little kind of racial, but yeah, it's about working harder and bleeding a little bit for your endeavor.
It's being in touch with your culture, with your heritage.
We've got a lot of stories about pulling the rickshaw and various sort of So you got to be willing to bleed for your.
You got to suffer for your art. Suffer for your art, right? You got to
suffer
honestly,
for your art.
Right.
And if you don't suffer, or the suffering's too much, and the suffering is more than your idea, then your idea will fall on its face.
Right. You got to be willing to. I mean, that's the thing, and a lot of people don't really get that when they start trying their own endeavors, whether it's a business or art or whatever. That you got to put a lot of time in, and be willing to make a lot of sacrifices for stuff to happen. That's really interesting.
Yeah. So my advice for people for marketing is first have a good product. Mm-hmm. Something you believe in and that you'd bleed for. Number 2, be respectful of the audience or community you're trying to build, because ultimately those people and you are going to spend a lot of time together, and they're going to be your friends and cohorts and people in the pits, especially in a crowdfunding way. Some of the first people who saw End of the Line in some of the early stages and thought it was amazing even before it got to its latest incarnations. Those people are sort of the core that, the wind beneath my wings, as it were, that keep me going and then keep the entire momentum going. Yeah, so I don't know if that makes any sense. But,
it does. It does. And I think that's great. So Craig, do you have any last questions here on crowdfunding? Or guerrilla marketing, or both?
No. I do.
All right,
and then I can't. Yeah. What was I gonna? No.
You were going to talk about a little bit how we sort of drifted into grassroots marketing and guerrilla marketing, and we kind of interwove the two. Craig,
it was confusing. It was confusing. I found it enmeshed.
It was enmeshed. We did a little bit of both.
It was.
Grassroots and gorilla, and the gorilla hiding in the grass and eating the roots. It was confusing.
Sorry.
But I mean, would you say that it's like if you had some money, would you still say that this was an effective? Is it an effective as part of your overall marketing strategy? Is it something that you like that you feel kind of drawn to? Is it like, can it be a stylistic choice too as a marketing tool?
I think gamers are really good at spotting phonies.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
And they're very responsive if you give them attention and take them seriously. Right. So in creating that one-to-one connection with them, I think, having a crew of people like on the ground interacting with them at conventions, I think will always be a good idea. Yeah. Just as stewards of your community, even if it's not as much marketing.
Yeah.
Right.
And you mentioned something earlier. I think that's really spot on, in that you've got to believe in your product. So you have to honestly believe that whatever you're making is really good. You can't.
Yeah.
Like you can't. There are people out there who can sell things they think that stink, but most people can't, or most people can detect that fakeness. And so you've got to really genuinely believe that the thing you're making and the thing you're selling is really good, and really understand. Not to get too technical, but the value proposition you're really offering to people. What makes this game so awesome? I love that you pointed out, like, really distill down the essence of what makes your game cool in like 7 seconds, right? Like, what really makes this game different than the 30 other games you're going to look at this month, right?
Right. Well, that's as part of not coming across as fake. You really need to know your own stuff, right?
Right.
And who it's going towards.
Yes, that who it's going towards is really important. When somebody comes up to you and it's not for them, you just got to, like, let it not be for them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, oh, my God, Conquest Princess, pew, pew, pew. I come up to some people, and immediately they want to plop down in chairs. And other people, they act like I slapped them with a fish. They're like, it's called what? You're doing what with fashion? Excuse me? And I'm like, yeah, well, all right then.
Yeah, move on.
You explain that you actually have fashion designers working on the game with you?
It's sort of fashion designers, artists, yeah. But mostly,
sounded impressive to me.
I'm trying to enlist more and more. But the thing for and you guys understand this a lot more than other people do, because you're about your listeners. You're providing something awesome for them. Every 2 weeks or less.
Well, we really strike for not too horrible.
Right.
It's more of an accident than
it's really
anything
all
else.
about setting expectations.
That's right. It's all about managing expectations.
Right, exactly.
I understand that as a game designer with low self-esteem.
Nice.
I endeavor to make a game that's better than I am, and that's not too hard.
Wow, there you go.
So, yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
so I get it. But, yeah, in the short, just, care about what you're doing. Care about your demo. Care about your game.
Yeah.
Care about your game enough to kill your babies. Sometimes you have ideas that you're in love with, and those ideas don't go in this project. They go into a different project, whatever. I mean, no matter how much you love the idea, sometimes it just doesn't work.
Well, that whole kill your darlings thing is huge. A huge concept in creative work.
Right. And if you want it marketable rather than just pure creative, that's another set of, distillant you're doing. Right.
You got to thin down exactly what you're doing and building, and that's really important. Well, thank you so much for these insights into guerrilla marketing here, Seppy. And we're going to be back in a bit here to talk more about some of your current Kickstarter projects, including and what's coming soon from you guys. But before that, we've got to take a break and listen to Rafe do his own guerrilla marketing about what he's up to, as well as Total Fangirl. So back in a bit.
That's what that is.
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, Total Fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. Hey everyone, this is Nicole, your Total Fangirl. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicole Wakeland and check out my blog, TotalFangirl.com. Our shout out is to all of our wonderful supporters over at Patreon. You too can support the show. Head to patreon.com/the D6 Generation, and thank you very much for all your support. So I just wrote up a post on my blog about the X-Files because we finished the 6-episode series. And if you have not watched the series, then fast forward and come back and listen to this later because I'm going to talk about it for a few seconds. So initially I was excited, although really nervous, because when they reboot stuff, it's hard because you're trying to appeal to an audience that was really into something that was hip and trendy and perfect many years ago, and times have changed. So is it going to resonate the same way with people today that it did all those years ago? Probably not. You have to change something, but you have to leave enough of it the same so that the people that originally saw it still feel like they're watching the same show and that you're sort of doing justice to the original. And I was really nervous about this. That was my biggest fear, that they were going to just not do it right, that it wasn't going to feel like the X-Files. Thankfully, I think it very much did feel like the X-Files. All 6 episodes felt very X-File-y. They started off, and like I said, if you haven't watched them all, then fast forward because they're spoilers. They started off sort of getting more into the mythology of things, and they went back to a Monster of the Week style, and then they wrap it up with mythology again. And we get some definite answers in this one. You know, are there aliens? Yep. Is there DNA being, in there? And is it in our systems now? Do we have alien DNA? Yep, some of us do. But the big shocker at the end was that it's not a bad thing, that DNA is actually protecting people from being basically infected with all the stuff that we think we're immune to. Nope, our immune systems have been savaged, and the bad guys have been plotting against us with vaccines, and now everyone's dying. It's very Walking Dead. Everyone's kind of keeling over and dying, not in weeks and weeks and weeks, but, I'm getting sick and it's lunchtime and then at dinner I'm dead. That kind of dying. And it's pretty dramatic. And you think that you realize Scully is immune because she has this DNA, but Mulder isn't. And she's desperately trying to rescue him and chasing him down in classic X-Files fashion. Will she get there in time? And she does. But wait, no, she doesn't, because he's so far gone that the cure that she has come up with isn't enough to cure him. He needs stem cells. What are we going to do? Cue giant alien ship flying over them. And then seconds later, cue credits, followed by the collective gasp of every X-Files fan on the planet watching this and saying, what the? And getting a little cranky. And I was among them, and so was Russ. And I was really upset with this. But the more that I've thought about it, the less upset I've become. And this is why. Because did the X-Files really ever answer anything to an absolute, without any question, that you knew that it was right? Did it ever really answer anything? No, every answer they had was still sort of couched in a probably, maybe, we think so. And even things we thought we knew for episodes and episodes in previous seasons suddenly would be proven to be not quite what we thought. So the X-Files never really answers any questions. The truth is always out there, but it's never actually on your screen. You never get to see it. So we got a little bit of truth in this. We got some of it. We know that alien DNA, or some kind of weird DNA, do we really know it's alien? Exists. And that it's a good thing because it's protecting people. But we don't really have all the answers. I mean, we don't know the ship that flies up there. Is that an alien ship, or is that the cabal of nefarious businessmen who have created this entire plot along with the smoking man? We don't really know. So it gives you some answers, which is cool, but it leaves a lot of things worrying and a lot of things not answered. And that's kind of perfect for the X-Files. It shouldn't leave us with answers. And I'm okay with that. At the same time that I'm not okay with that, because I really want to know what's going on. But I'm willing to go along with it and say, okay, we get a little bit, but they leave us with a little. And there's talk that there might be one more season. They do another little 6-episode or shortened type season thing. So you know what? I liked it. If you liked the X-Files, think about the spirit of the original show, and how that ended was absolutely perfect.
So here we are in the middle of February, the darkest, dankest month of the year. What better to do in the middle of this crappy month than think about great vacations?
That's right. If you want to go on a great vacation, and some people love to travel, but they get a little nervous about the booking and how am I going to make sure I maximize my experience?
Yeah, what if I miss something?
Yeah, how do I know I'm going to go to the things I like? And what's great about a service like Geek Nation Tours, and Geek Nation Tours in particular, is these are all geeks. I mean, Terrace is a total gamer. He knows. He's a Trek fan. He's a Whovian, and he loves miniature games and board games and RPGs. He's done it all. And so here he is. He's doing all these great things, and he knows when he takes folks like us to these great cities, whether it's for a convention, whether it's for seeing the sites where great films were filmed, or
historic. I mean, he does that, all kinds of historical battlefield tours,
all that great stuff. And especially, or let's say you're going to go on a long journey to a conference like Gen Con this summer, and you're going to be going to Indianapolis and Gen Con for the first time, and let's say you're out of the country, and you want to make sure you maximize the experience. You hear all the rumors, Gen Con hotels sold out, Gen Con tickets are hard to get, Gen Con this. Well, no problem. You sign up with Geek Nation Tours. He takes care of all those worries for you and gets you a longer, more involved experience with other things that are going on before, after, and during the convention, all the great sites. It really is the ultimate way to experience these events.
It absolutely is. And this year, special at Gen Con, you go to Gen Con with Geek Nation Tours, you're going to meet Phil, the Pole Ombudsman of the D6 generation.
He'll be there. That's right.
He's going to be there with the D6. He's going to be there with the Geek Nation Tours.
And it's great because the Geek Nation Tours, they have those special dinners where you can meet folks, some very famous, like some game designers, sometimes not as famous, like Craig and I. And so you get a chance to hang out with a variety of people and really get to know.
We like to think of ourselves as micro famous.
Yes, very micro famous.
Very micro.
So good stuff. And we hope
smaller
to see
than mini.
Looking very forward to. Hope you see you at Gen Con this year. And if Gen Con's not in the cards for you, be sure to go to geeknationtours.com and click on the Tours button, because you can see all the great offerings that Geek Nation Tours has.
Guarantee there's going to be something that catches your fancy.
geeknationtours.com.
I'm Rafe Hollywood Granger, and this is the Hollywood Minute.
Hello, welcome to another edition of the Hollywood Minute. I'm Rafe Hollywood Granger. All right, today we're recording Hollywood Minute number 187. And let's talk about The Division and the Shadows of Brimstone. So, played The Division, the Tom Clancy game. It's the MMO shooter. Played it on beta over last weekend. And it was really pretty interesting. I've never played a MMO shooter before. I didn't get into, what was that Xbox one called? I can't think of it. I can't think of it. Anyway, the MMO shooter that was out before Tom Clancy's game. So it was pretty cool. Tom Clancy's The Division. It's kind of this premise that there's been this outbreak of an illness, and you're this specialized police force team going around New York City, and you're kind of like a tactical SWAT type of team, and it's really pretty cool. I liked it. It was only the beta, so not everything was unlocked. I thought it would just be boring because it would just be like, like a shooter. You just kind of shoot stuff. But no, it looks like they got some crafting. You can kind of upgrade your weapon. If you help out civilians, you can kind of get cool cosmetic gear. I think I always like MMOs that have cosmetic gear as an option. I always think that makes it really neat because it just makes you look a little different. So I found that to be fun. So I'm really looking forward to the fact that it'll be coming live soon. I think March 8th is the launch. And I'm going to try it on Xbox. I've never done an MMO on Xbox, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how that'll do. What else did I think was different and unique? Yeah, it had missions, it had crafting, it was good flow. It played well on the Xbox. Having a controller was fine. It was pretty cool. Oh, I even linked up with a guy, and we did a couple missions together. That was fun. So the grouping was pretty easy. Yeah, all in all, I'm looking forward to it. Andy and I are also fans of Far Cry, and Far Cry Primal is also out. Debating picking that up. The game looks a little brutal, actually. I kind of watched the demo of it, and I was surprised at the brutality of it. So I don't know if I'm going to jump on that. The other thing we did is I did get this is my second game in the new year. I did get to play Shadows of Brimstone. I played it with the guys up in Portsmouth, the gamers I game with up there. I had a blast. It was really fun. There were 4 characters, so I kind of GM'd it. and they had a lot of fun. I really like that game. That game is by Flying Frog Productions. To me, it has the perfect balance of a dungeon crawl with just enough of a role play. You play 100% cooperative against the board that I like. The threat works good. The AI of the game works really well. It's a very finely balanced game. I think you can even play one, so I'm always a fan of solo games. And it was a blast. I'm looking forward to playing. I've only played each one. I've played the starter mission now 3 times. So I'm looking forward to playing a mission beyond that. Also, a couple people have emailed me. I appreciate that. I'm going to get some role-playing sheets and things to keep track of the characters. So I appreciate that feedback. If you want to email me or reach out to me, I'm Hollywood@the D6generation.com or on Twitter, the D6G Hollywood. Those are the 2 best places to find me there. Or if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel where you can see these videos, then that is Rafe Granger on YouTube. And I'm also thinking about getting the podcast up and going again. Not to do a podcast per se, but to append the Hollywood Minutes. So if you want to just hear them just by themselves, and I might even go back and do a backlog of it, but I'm not sure. I figure that'll take a bunch of time, and I'm not sure, how I want to go forward with that. So that's, if you have any thoughts on the Shadows or anything like that, that would be cool. I'd love to hear them from you. Also got to play Gates of Antares with Russ and Craig. I played Craig's Concord Army. I really enjoyed that too. If you guys haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. I give it the Hollywood thumbs up of approval. I liked the dice game. Playing with Craig's army and Russ's army was beautiful. I can tell you, I think I would play. I think I would jump in and play right now. I happen to be super swamped with work. I'm doing more consulting and coaching in my law business, which is great for entrepreneurs, and of course still running my practice. And so I don't really have time to buy an army and paint it or anything like that. But if one landed in my lap, I think I would definitely play. So definitely check out Gates of Antares. If it's not too late and you haven't checked it out, go check out The End of the Line on Kickstarter. I do recommend that game by Seppy Yoon. It's a good filler game. I mean, it's longer than filler, but it's a good kind of beer and pretzels game. Very deep, very well thought out, good components. I really recommend that game. So, hey, I think that's it for this Hollywood Minute. Working on a tight deadline here, so I wanted to make sure I got this out to you and over to Russ so we can put it into the show. Looking forward to next time. Till next time, happy gaming.
Hey, welcome back. And so we've got Seppy here, and he's got this Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. And of course, we've been playing the heck out of Squirrel or Die since Adepticon, where you had your little teaser, first taste of Seppy.
Oh, yeah.
In the after show special segment for Adepticon. And so we thought, well, we've got him here. We might as well put his feet to the fire and find out what makes a crazy game designer like Seppy tick.
Exactly.
So, Seppy, if you'll take those paddles, hold them tightly, ignore the giant cherub floating behind you.
Okay, got it.
Right.
Are you now, or have you ever been, a gamer?
Yep, I'm a gamer. Pretty seriously a gamer. I really never had a chance. My brothers got into D&D, and they were like 7 and 5 years older than me. So I was 6 when they started to play. That prime 80s 13-year-old D&D stereotype, that was my brother.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
Oh, my God, with the acne, the braces.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem with girls.
So you're throwing your brother under the bus in the first question.
Absolutely.
Okay.
My parents still
we can respect
say all my bad life choices is because my brother had exposed me to those games. And I'm on board with that. I'm on board.
Like, yep.
All right.
Excellent. So which edition, just to level set everyone, which edition of Dungeons and Dragons was your first sort of intro to the wonderful world of RPGs?
We did the red and blue boxes. You guys remember those?
Oh, yeah.
And then quickly into AD&D.
Right. Yeah.
First edition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of us went right from the boxes to wait, the hardcover books, and that was the end of that. Yeah.
It was true. That hardcover book was my first hardcover book ever. I was 6.
Yeah.
Reading that the player's handbook. It took me a year.
Yeah.
And my dad has a really thick Korean accent, and so asking him to teach me words like emulate Immolate was just cruel.
How do you spell? How do you pronounce Ifrit, Dad?
Yeah, he was. Oh yeah, no, there's no F. There's no F in Korean either. That's a really hard sound for them.
Cool. So that right. So you're right. You're right in our generation there. That's the same. And a lot of the game designers from that era, of course, the game that got them sort of hooked appears to be Dungeons and Dragons. Is seems to be the game that started it off for a lot of people.
That's the gateway for most of them.
You're definitely in the majority.
For us, I was super competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, at 6, I was trying to play chess with my brothers. I was playing this, and then,
how'd that go?
I lost a lot.
Hey, that's one of the best ways of learning.
It's true. I lost a lot, but I was fearless. And if I was going to lose too badly, I could always hit the nuclear option to get my parents involved.
Right.
Bam! Tear Factory, engage!
Right.
So yeah, that happened a couple of times. In poker, I come from an Irish Catholic. Half of my family is Irish Catholic, and the other half is Korean.
Mm-hmm. That's quite the combination. That's excellent.
So drinking and gambling is okay if you're Irish Catholic,
right?
So there were instances where we were having family poker night, and they took all my money, and then the tear we had. I needed this money. The tear bomb hits. No, give me my money back. Yeah, that happened.
So did your brothers run most of the D&D games, or did you guys? When did you start? Did you ever? I mean, you just let us know earlier that you had you're this epic, hardcore DM that does hours and hours of prep work. When did your first GMing experience happen?
I would have to say middle school. Mm-hmm. My brothers are all in college by then, and then I had to sort of fend for myself and forge my own group. I think the very first module I attempted to run. To make sure that I got the rules right, and so it was the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh.
Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh.
I love that module still to this day. I love the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. Yeah.
Excellent. Because I find that a lot of people who DM at least at some point take a crack at making their own game, right? Did that ever happen to you? I mean, when you were really young, did you try a game, not thinking you'd grow up to be a game designer, but just like, I'm going to try to build my own game?
Yeah, we started writing games, I think, pretty early. Mm-hmm. I think our first, you'd be like, why are you taking on this kind of project game? We tried to make a Car Wars-esque game at 14. I was on, I don't know, do you remember, one of the last generation Atari Atari computers? Do you remember what that one was called?
Not the 800, was it? It was the.
It was just after the 800. Was it the 1400 or the 1200?
I think it was.
So I was on one of those doing word processing, making up all the charts. Because at that time, I thought a good game had nothing but charts to flip through.
Oh yes, that's right. Because anybody who's played Starfleet Battles knows that it's all about the charts.
You just got to keep. I mean, a good, and so to figure out engine to mass ratios and turning sequences and everything. We made so many charts. I think I still have a book of that, somewhere around from that first game. Yeah, it was not playable. It was terrible. Yeah, but later on we got better. We ended up making a light miniatures game based on. Do you guys remember Battle Beasts?
Light. It sounds familiar. It was a toy, right?
Yeah, it's a little toy. A little, you had all these anthropomorphic figures. Mm-hmm. So, you had a bunny man and a bobcat man and a bear man and all these people. We made a light miniatures game. We ended up playing the crap out of that for about a year.
Oh, wow. Nice.
It was super, super fun. Yeah. So, but I think DMing is really sort of the gateway drug for game designers. Mm-hmm. You have a structure. You have to create a story around it, but then also these individual mechanics in these stories become mini games. Mm-hmm. If you ever do any traps or mysteries, these are all mini games inside the game.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. And so that was and I was also a really lonely kid, so I played a lot of Monopoly by myself.
How does that work? How do you play Monopoly solo?
Well, after you wipe the tears out of your eyes because you're so lonely, you have different. You set up. Usually, it's best with 4 people, and you go from place to place, rolling dice and so forth and whatnot, and moving everybody around.
Oh, I see. So it's one player for virtual players.
Yeah. No, you're all the players.
Yeah,
ultimately.
Right. I get it. Okay,
but it's a weird exercise in modeling. it's a weird exercise in fortitude.
Yeah, it's really a psychological journey, right? I mean,
it's a lot of concentration. You got to keep these things straight and keep on going from turn to turn to turn to turn, and then you eventually also create your own little narratives about the individual players.
Seppy, I think it's safe to share this with you that most of the game designers who've been on the show have been their first game is Dungeons and Dragons, but I think it's safe to say you are the only person who's been on the show who can claim they've played solo 4-player Monopoly.
Oh my God, yeah, I did a lot of that.
So that's a pretty impressive feat, and I can see.
No, that's just sad, Russ. I can
see why this has led you down this path of.
Yeah. I always loved sort of running a game. As far as like creating a story, interactive, something my friends and I could create as a narrative that we would then come away and talk about later. That was super, super, super good for us. Like I said, my group was weird. We started writing games early. I mean, and then only playing your own games that you wrote for a large section of time. That's strange. That's just weird.
Now, when did you decide? Did you go for playing? So it sounds like writing your own games and playing them was kind of your hobby, right? So instead of buying a game, you just make one up and try it for a few months or a year or whatever. When did you go from that to okay, I'm actually going to try to make money by designing a game?
There's a couple of steps in between. We made some, and then in college, I was in a literary campaign, which was really interesting, where the entire thing was a lettered discourse between kings, and that ended up producing 14 volumes of content between all the people or something like that. Mine was, I got out early because I went to join the Navy. Mine was 300 pages.
Wow.
Jeez.
And we also wanted to create our own map for Axis and Allies. And so we created a little sort of Mythos for a World and Axis and Allies map so that we could change up the game a little bit. So we did that. That was just interesting for us. And high production values were a thing that were instilled by a buddy of mine in college whose degree was medieval cartography.
Oh, interesting.
Nice.
So, and he's like, no, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And I'm like, okay, if this is now the standard at which we do these things. So I took a little time off to sort of figure out who I was. I was in the Navy until they kicked me out for being gay. And then I came back to Minnesota to actually the medieval cartography guy invited me to help him with books from the University of Michigan Press. So I was doing copywriting and layout for those. And then the internet happened. Whoa! If you could say the word internet before the first bubble happened, you could have a job in the internet.
Right.
So I got swept up in a lot of different things I helped launch BestBuy.com and the new Medtronic.com and all this other kinds of stuff. And it was when the bubble was about to break around Medtronic.com and the first bubble busting that I started writing games again seriously, I would say.
Oh, cool.
That was it. I had a lot of time.
Held you out of marketing?
Right. I was I had made all this money and I wasn't sort of interested in putting myself back up in the grind, and there wasn't really anything after the bubble burst. So I was like, I got some time. I'm going to do this. And I made this 2-player combat game that I really liked. I probably should publish that one eventually. It's pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah, it's super fun. But that's when I really sort of got the bug to start writing games again.
So, and what was your first game that got published?
The self-published Squirrel or Die is probably officially the first one.
Yep.
There's some other stuff in there. There's a lot of stuff that was played. But I did. My husband was raised a Jehovah's Witness, and so he never had birthdays. Okay. So when he hit his 40th birthday party, I created a game for our 50 guests to come, and we just basically
a small intimate affair.
Yeah, it was. So I basically invited all these people, and I set up all the rooms in this duplex I was living in as the various birthdays that he never had, and then had each team try to champion a different area. And then at the end, we all came together, and they were either trying to make the best birthday ever or the worst birthday ever story with the artifacts that they had swapped with other people in the team. It was super fun. It was,
awesome.
a little overly elaborate a little bit, but it was a hysterical party game. And they ended up, I think team 30th birthday was the worst, and then team 21st birthday was the best. And so after I got to see all these people sort of enjoy this thing, I was like, maybe I should consider doing this.
Very cool.
As a thing.
Maybe someday I should come up with a game about the end of the world.
Yes. Oh, yeah. This is entirely my husband's fault, too. He has terrible line karma. Do either of you guys have like a weird personal karma that you suffer from?
Not that I know of, but it would explain a lot.
I have I have good parking karma for being such a bad Asian driver. I have actually fantastic parking karma. I don't know where this comes from. So I'll always drive up to the front and park right away. Okay, this infuriates Tony. And then, but he has terrible line karma. So let's say there's 2 people in line A and there's 16 people in line B. Mm-hmm. He will go to line A, and we will be stuck there for a half an hour while all the other people in line B end up blowing past us because somebody, if it's the bank, they wanted to open a money management account.
Right, so complicated.
But forgot how to spell their name or something, the equivalent. And this rage would build up. And then, being stuck ground zero with him, I, too, had, I'm like, oh, my God, what if?
So the concept.
So
the line. So you decided to make you did Squirrel or Die self-publishing, and now you're going to try. You wanted to try the second, a little more, more involved game. Because Squirrel or Die is great; it's fast and fun, but End of the Line's a little more in depth, right? And so the inspiration for the idea of the second game really came from your husband's line karma?
Rage. Yeah. Experiencing this line rage inflicted on me by my spouse. Yes.
So how did that work? Were you like, there's a game here someplace? Or were you like, how did it come from that to like, okay, I want to wait in line, and then we got to figure out how to put the apocalypse on top of it?
Well, it started the first playable versions of End of the Line were years and years before Squirrel or Die.
Okay.
Squirrel or Die happened strictly because of Bob. I told you guys the story. Mm-hmm. Bob planted a whole bunch of tulip bulbs in his garden, $200 worth.
Right.
Only 7 of them came up, 3 of them in his lawn so the squirrels could troll him.
Right.
Would run over them again and again, like mocking him. That's how that happened. And in the same way, I try to take inspiration from...
So you're taking inspiration from bad karma. This is a thing for you.
It is. It's a real thing.
Have you found that it's resulting in... How does this affect your own personal karma?
No, if you can't take like somebody else's suffering and make it an enjoyable experience for everybody else, what is the purpose of your life?
Oh, fair enough. Okay, continue.
You guys been doing this podcast how long?
You're right. Enough said.
That's
yes,
true.
Good point.
So that game, I was really sort of intrigued with a mechanic that a lot of individual mechanics that I liked, but I thought were a little laborious on themselves. I like Robo Rally, but once you play enough Robo Rally, it hurts people. Mm-hmm. I like Agricola, but that first Agricola, still people have scars. You can say Agricola to people, they'll start breaking down in tears.
Right.
All the color will drain out of their face. They won't make eye contact with you anymore. That kind of thing, Plus, I was looking for something that really captured the essence of being one of those little cogs in the terrible machine of a dystopian society.
Right.
Okay. I was super affected by, do you remember in Thunderdome?
Yes.
Those guys all working on the pigs and those people like just being peons.
Yeah, right.
I was like, how do you exist in that sort of, what would perpetuate you?
Right.
I thought that, the original Gastown and Road Warrior and so forth and whatnot, because you never see that. And I thought that was sort of really tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
That really, 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 really interested me, too. So it all sort of culminated. I love End of the Line's got that group programming experience that you guys have seen.
Yep.
And then as far as Take That game, it has everybody risking their own pain to try to get ahead in the game.
Right.
So I like that sort of self-sabotage, too.
And was the apocalypse just sort of the natural progression of this, or did that come from another bit of inspiration?
I originally had made the game. Remember what the Mayan calendar was going to run out?
Yeah.
Right.
I was going to make it so it was, as a marketing effort, it was going to coincide with the...
See, guerrilla marketing again. Going to tie it
Right.
into...
I was like, oh.
Right.
And so that's when the first sort of... I tried to get publishing for End of the Line. And that's, more than 5 years ago.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. So real quick, we should probably give the listeners the high-level overview of the pitch of the game here.
Let's talk
Seppy,
about it.
What is the elevator pitch for End of the Line?
Post-apocalyptic family survival.
Nice.
But before we even go to that, we should talk about the D6G curse for Kickstarters.
Okay, well, good point. So you're in the middle of this Kickstarter. You're
Right.
running it right now. And we were talking to Seppy about this at Captain Con, and we'd love to have you on the show. You're a great guy, you got great personality. Love to have you on here to talk about your game. The game's a lot of fun. Why not? And Craig and I, but we should warn you.
We didn't warn him until he was already halfway done recording the first
No, wait.
No warning.
So well, this is part of the marketing thing. You loop the guy in, then you explain the full disclosure.
I get it.
The hook. You got me with the hook.
So once we got him to record half the show,
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
said,
there you
by the
go.
way, you should know, Seppy, that so far every guest who's been on the show who's running a Kickstarter,
Not every.
Not
You
every.
Keep saying that.
many, most, some,
Two.
okay, two.
I thought it was all. They had never actually finished their Kickstarter.
No, because
No.
Ross Watson's finished, so that counts.
Oh, they
And Maelstrom's Edge.
Maelstrom's Edge finished, that counts. But there were a couple of
There were
big
two
ones
big ones.
that sort of immediately actually turned themselves off
The day after
the day after the show went live.
Oh my God.
Yes.
That's the worst. You guys are killing me.
Like literally. Now, one of them was Gates of Antares, which the game actually came out. So they just went and dropped
So
the Kickstarter.
there's a happy ending story right there for
But
you.
literally, we had Rick Priestley on the show for the first time, and then day after they killed the Kickstarter. Like the show went live, and the day after it died. So, and there was one other game that happened too, also, and I'm forgetting the other game.
Wasn't it Neil and the terrain?
Yes, it was a terrain Kickstarter by Spartan Games. So we've had two major companies trying to do this, failed. So we just wanted to warn you that there is this...
major designers with track records.
Yes. So we're warning you there is this sort of curse here.
That's not intimidating in the slightest.
No.
Seppy, you are here to continue to break this curse.
I want to continue. I need the help of your listeners. I think we can all band together.
That's right.
Because it's important, because right now, this one, if yours goes down now, that will start a trend, because we will have had three that failed.
Yeah.
So you are here we've had two succeed, so you need to get in this one and bring us back on the winning side of the curve here.
Well, first of all, before any of that, I have to thank all three of you guys, Wraith included, for backing this Kickstarter. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, it looks fun. Well, it's easy once you play the game. It's awesome. It's definitely something you want to have. It's fantastic. And so we're hopeful that the curse will get lifted here and you will turn the corner for this thing.
I need the help.
Okay.
We're now in the scary part of the Kickstarter. We first had the initial upswell, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
We're like, hey. And then, in the first week, we got halfway there, which is awesome. Yeah. And then it's like,
now it's pausing.
Now it's like the top of the roller coaster.
Like the doldrums.
Right. Yeah.
It's the top of the roller. It's like, click, click. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. It's going to roll backwards. No. So that's where we are now. And I really need... I really need sort of a light to show, hey, we're going this way. Salvation is this way.
So let's get for people to really get into this, though, they're going to need to know what this is about. So the elevator pitch is post-apocalyptic
family survival,
food lines.
Yes. So you're a family.
Yes.
And it plays anywhere from 3 to 5 people or 6 with the expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got your dad, mom, boy, girl, and dog all ready to go wait in line.
Yeah.
And hopefully collect a resource.
Right.
And while they're waiting in line, any number of terrible things can happen to them. Mm-hmm. And hopefully they'll come back with at least their life. But if they get scrounge a little bit more resources, that they can then survive another day to do this again and again. Yeah. It's a last family standing kind of thing. It's really sort of tongue-in-cheek about the apocalypse. It uses sort of, I would like to think of it, a very original mix of sort of group programming, resource management, hand management, and worker placement.
Mm-hmm. It's got it all and more.
I think that's fair. And I think one of the other things that's really fun about the game, and it's really hard to describe until you try it, is the integration of all the great movie references into the cards that cause the various bad things generally to happen to the various folks waiting in line.
Oh, absolutely.
So I wanted to ask you about that because I think it's really important for people to understand that really sets a scene and gets the mood established instantly. And what was was this just something what was the inspiration for getting all the one-liners from various TV shows and movies in there?
Well, you guys understand, growing up Cold War era, you had a much more intimate relationship with the end of the world.
Oh, yes. Any day. Could have happened any day.
Any day.
Do you guys remember the day after?
I remember it fondly. In fact, I used clips of it for a project my senior year of high school.
See, people, I don't understand. This is something that was on ABC TV, that you were supposed to get your family together so that they could watch this other TV family watch what's going to happen to them when nuclear war happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that obviously left a profound scar.
Yeah, that's where you find out that the best case scenario is that you're near something big that needs to be blown up.
Right.
Right.
That you really don't want to be far away from it because that's where you're really going to get all messed up.
Yeah, see,
absolutely.
But honestly, global warming's got nothing on nuclear winter, right? I mean, it was, slowly worrying about the fact that the beach line's going to grow is not quite the same thing as DC's going to get nuked and all your hair's going to fall out and your organs are going to melt in about a month.
Absolutely.
It's just a whole different world back then.
Oh my God, yeah. So my family's from Busan, and my grandfather has a story about seeing the Flash across the ocean.
Right.
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
So it's like, that's a thing.
Yeah.
This is real. It really exists.
That's a thing, And then my uncle was taken as a POW during the Korean War, and I mean, so. My dad has a very different relationship with this whole war and things are going. And then, of course, the Bay of Pigs and so forth and whatnot. And it's like, so, it wasn't an if we were going to kill each other. It was a when we were going to kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Well, my dad, I grew up as an Army brat. My dad was in the U.S. military, and we were stationed in Germany in the 80s. In fact, to this day, I cannot give blood because they were afraid I have mad cow disease, which interesting side note. But true story.
That would explain a lot.
True story. It does explain a lot. But my dad would go out on these exercises called Reforger, for those in the military might remember this. And these were massive exercises that happened in Europe that would simulate what would happen when the USSR invaded, right? So it was no joke. I mean, you're right, it was going to happen. And people were training for this. And it was like, Red Dawn and all those movies, that was real. That was going to happen. It was just a matter of how long did we have and would we win, right? It wasn't even really a question of when.
And do you guys remember Fortress America?
Oh, yeah. That was a great game. Oh,
yeah. No, it was in the games. It was in the total culture of everything that we had going on.
Yep.
This us versus them mentality. And then the fact that everybody understood in a Matthew Broderick sort of way that we were all going to die.
Right.
Because nobody could understand that people would stop playing because their money ran out.
Right. Yeah. So when did you decide, so you got the end of the world built into you as a kid, and when did you decide, but you know what I need to do? I need to have all these essentially 80s movies references in the game.
All right, you guys have interacted with me a little bit now. So one of the most interesting descriptions of me ever was somebody said, Seppy, you have the fluffiest outside exterior and the darkest, most black core on any person I have ever seen. You are like a gas giant as a person. Wow. And I'm like, wow.
Is that a compliment?
Thank you. Yeah, sure.
What does that mean?
So
Good.
I love this idea of tongue-in-cheek sort of really dark elements sort of hand in hand with sort of fun and laughter. And I mean, obviously, because if you can't laugh at this stuff in your own pain, then you're going to have a hard time moving past it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all these things that were sort of semi-serious or really serious for us, now like looking back and like sort of reveling in just the craziness of it is a little cathartic.
Yeah. And so you had, so in this game, Craig and I were talking about it earlier. There was, Children of the Corn's in there, and Mad Max was in there, and I don't know, all the Mad Max movies. And so you just kind of it was just come out. Did you do any research, or just kind of come out naturally as you were start writing this stuff up?
Oh, it just occurred to me.
Yeah.
It's like, I want something that does this. Oh, I want something that kills all the adults. Well, that's Children of the Corn.
Right.
Oh my God, I want something that turns people into food. Well, that's Soylent Green.
Right.
I want something which kills all the males. Well, obviously, that's the beginning of the Red Diaper classic from Sean Connery, Zardoz.
Right.
I literally try to sneak in a Zardoz reference into everything I do. I can't help myself.
So where's the Zardoz reference in Squirrel or Die? That's what I want to know.
It's secretly up
subtle.
in there.
Okay.
The fact that there's a red tiles, that red actually quite accurately mimics the diaper that he has.
Okay. All right. We'll take off. So let's talk. So that's the theme, right? So let's talk about some of the mechanics in this game and what makes it so interesting. So what were the fundamentals? What did you want to make sure were in the game? So you knew you wanted to have something about lines in it because of your husband's karma.
Yeah.
And you knew you wanted to have it to be apocalyptic. So how are you going to capture that in mechanics?
I wanted to have a person's internal narrative be almost sort of more important than how things move around in the piece. So the abstraction of lines is sort of how it got to the shape that it is currently. Okay, and so this rage that everybody feels when they have to wait in the bank line or the grocery line or whatever line they're, I want them to be able to tap into that to win the game.
Right.
But just like in real life, if you go off at the cashier or whoever is making you wait that much longer, you are taking collateral damage for what you're doing.
Right.
So in this same game, there's only 5 cards in the deck that allow you to single target another player. Mm-hmm. Everything else that you have to do to get ahead, like hypothermia or dehydration or starvation, you have to risk your own people. You can only play terrible things on lines where you already have people in them.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that sort of self-punishment to get ahead, I thought that was hysterical, especially in a post-apocalyptic sort of way.
So what were some of the things that you kind of learned as you started to do the early play tests, as you started to develop the mechanics? What were some of the early things you were like, oh, we got to change this, we got to change that?
The biggest thing is originally all the lines stayed open, and the happiest accident for the whole game is the entropy of the entire game. Mm-hmm. When family members die off, you close various lines until everybody eventually is just in the water line, mm-hmm. which is pretty much at that point just a moist patch of mud that you're clawing each other's eyeballs out to try to suck on the dirt. Yeah, that is sort of what is happening.
We should mention that a lot of this is happening in Seppy's head.
That's true.
There's no actual half-arid mud pit token in the game, right?
Oh, I gotta make one of those now.
I think you do.
Just to prove you wrong.
The water line, Seppy, the water line should flip over to the other side and be a dark mud
there you go.
When you get to the last line.
Oh. No, because you got to be able to flip it over to close it.
No, but it never closes, right? Isn't the water the last one?
Yeah, It only closes if something forces it closed. But
then there are things that can force it temporarily closed.
You got to yeah, but that's ultimately the last. Of all the things in the game, there's fuel, ammo, food, and water. Water is the thing that you need the most frequently of all of those things.
Right.
And so that is the last one that closes.
I kind of feel like you could put a small cup of mud in every box and say, free mud inside.
My game is already 4 pounds. When it ships, I can't do. The U.S. Postal Office is already taking a chunk of my flesh to ship this game. No, I cannot. No,
you're not the first game designer.
Not included.
You're not the first game designer that says, "Look, we designed the game and its components completely around the size and weight it will be to ship." right? Because that's a large chunk of your cost, right? Is right there.
It's huge. Yeah. If I had known that, maybe I would have designed a different game. But I'm committed now.
Right. Feathers and lines.
Yeah,
Right.
Lines, yeah.
Right.
I include a piece of chalk.
Right.
And you just draw your own lines because
Right.
I can't afford to send you boards.
Right. So you learned that. What else? Were there any sort of core mechanics you really, really loved? I mean, a lot of the folks in the show talk about this idea, Craig included, of killing your darlings, right? Where you're pretty sure this is just the awesomest rule or mechanic ever, but the more you play it, the more you realize it isn't working and you've got to kill that thing you love. Did you have anything like that in this game?
I think I sidelined a couple of items. It's been a while. And I had a couple other failed projects sort of around that time, so that's a little bit hazy. And recently, for our newest project, I had to beat the crap out of it, so that's a little bit hazy. But there are things that I did love that I was sort of attracted to right away, which was the law cards in the game.
Yep.
This idea that you are permanently changing the rules of each line. It really attracted me early, and it's one of the things that I like most about the game.
Well, that's really where. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that's where you really build in or front load your the frustration factor, where you're playing a game, so you're like, it's a line, whatever. But now, when people start hitting you with rules, then you sort of crank up the frustration factor and the angst beyond what you would normally expect from a game, to the point where you're like, no, please don't do that. I need that guy to finish to the end of the line.
Yeah. It's good. It adds a lot to the drama because, you guys got to experience it. The face down laws are like landmines, and you're like, are they bluffing?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. And then you have to start looking at your hand and looking at your meeples that you have left and looking at other people, how trustworthy they are. Like, for example, I know you guys have kids. I would never leave them with Dave from the Nerd Herders.
No. Sadly, I have left mine with Dave. Things worked out fine, I think.
Yeah. Okay. And then the whole idea of I had to do this for the short-term games of this turn, but now I have to live with the consequences of putting down this horrible law. Like when you put by soylent means on the food line, that means if you guys want food, you're risking being one of the people who's going to be eaten every turn.
Right.
Yeah, and so that sort of puts a lens on the game and the drama and so forth and whatnot. So I was really, really, really happy with that. There's some things that will end up in the later 3 expansions. The first expansion is halfway, I would guess, more or less, maybe a third, through testing. The Inevitable Machine Revolt. So some of the ideas that I really wanted to include in the original game ended up going there because it's sort of a little bit more advanced take on the game.
Nice. So you're thinking like the different expansions will be different sort of apocalyptic situations?
They are. The 3 expansions as they are right now is the Inevitable Machine Revolt, which is robots and androids. When Monsters Rule, which are like zombies, werewolves, vampires, Cthulhu monsters.
Right.
Okay. And the last one that we are tentatively calling Aliens or Jerks. So, and each one's supposed to be played standalone.
Yep.
A standalone expansion. You add that to the game. Aliens and Jerks and the Inevitable Machine Revolt might go hand in hand, but I'm not sure. I haven't really decided that yet. But when Monsters Rule the Earth and the Inevitable Machine Revolt are not to be played together.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's talk. So those are the expansions. Now we've talked about some of the mechanics. We've talked about the theme a lot, which is great. What comes in this 4-pound box?
Right now, we made our first social stretch goal. Yay, everybody!
Yay.
It's now a 5-player game. Originally, for cost reasons or whatever, it was 4, but now the stretch goal has happened. We're now to 5. You get your 5 families. Each has 5 meeples. They're pretty big. You guys saw them. And they're custom. Then there are now 21 resource cubes for each of the resources. There's 4 lines and the graveyard. We're right now working on the social stretch goal, and I want you guys to participate. We're doing post-apocalyptic selfies. So what you would want in your secret stash to make the end times worth living. And you can either send it to Facebook or tweet us the image. So @fightingabox, hashtag end of the line. with a picture, a selfie of you with something you have to have. And people have gotten a little creative already. We've got peanut butter, yarn. I think somebody has a mortar. Somebody had a hoard of beer, some caffeine, an aluminum clipboard. Yeah, these are the things that people are coming up with. And the one that the selfie that we like the most will end up putting in the first expansion. So as a sort of inspiration for a card.
Very cool. Cool.
So so that's where we are with that. So hopefully we'll get that social stretch goal, and that will mean you'll have 5 lines, which is the 4 resources, then plus the black market, which we are working on right now. There's the main action deck, which is currently 96 cards, and then the Calamity deck, which is 20 cards, more or less. And then the Calamity deck is sort of this terrible global thing that happens to everybody every round.
Very cool. That sounds awesome. I've already, as you mentioned, we've already backed in. I can't wait. We had a great time playing it at
it was
Captain
a blast.
Con. Good fun. So how are you getting your feedback? One of the things. Well, I wanted to ask you how. This is this your first Kickstarter experience, or did you kickstart Squirrel or Die? I don't remember.
Oh, no. Okay, so the our original plan was we had End of the Line, and people were playing it. My group of friends who ended up creating Fight in a Box. And we were like, hey, we should kickstart this. And then we were like, no, that is crazy. No one is going to kickstart a game with all this stuff in it as your first Kickstarter. Seppy, why don't you go out and write a game, like a card game, that's more approachable that we can kickstart first, and so people will be more confident with what we do. And I'm like, okay, I can go do that. And you guys have heard me talk about our card game, which is Undermine,
right?
Which is about being a supervillain, ending the world first.
Right.
Okay, because in a marketing sense, that's supposed to dovetail the two. Oh, you're working to end the world, and okay, our next game is about living in this world
you ended.
Create.
Right.
Right. So, well, we ended up having game day last year, where we put up Squirrel or Die, Undermine, and End of the Line, and we asked, hey, do you guys want us to make kickstart a really approachable, sort of low-cost, low-end version of Squirrel or Die? Do you want us to do Undermine as per our plan, because we think we're ready to get to the next stage, or are you interested in End of the Line? And after everybody played all the games the whole day, 80% to 20 people said, just do End of the Line now.
Right. Well, good. So you're listening to the feedback. That's good.
Yeah, and it was heartbreaking though, because Undermine was like 22 months into the project.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was like, oh, okay, all right then.
Well, have you thought about making End of the Line be sort of part of the Kickstarter somehow, or you want to keep things separate?
We're gonna keep it. We're gonna keep the thing separate.
Right.
End of Line is its own sort of awesome animal,
okay.
And so instead of doing that, we decided we were going to say, okay, our fans said, our local fans said, do this. We're going to go to convention and bring it in front of people and ask them what they think. And so that's what we did. And so we ended up in Captain Con last fall, and then again here, Con of the North, Convergence locally for us, War Machine Weekend, all these kind of places. And we're going Adepticon, and we're getting people's feedback. And once the feedback got to the point of, hey, when can I buy this? Then we were like, okay, now it's ready to go.
Right. Cool. Very cool. So, so this is your first. What do you think of the Kickstarter experience with End of the Line?
It's just excruciating. I would say that's the right word for it. I was not mentally prepared. The mental rigors that it would take. First of all, I like community building a lot. It gave me a chance to meet you guys, which is awesome. And then, and all of this is thanks to John Demers and the Muse guys saying, Seppy, it's great that you write great games, but if nobody plays them, why don't you start coming to these conventions with us? And I'm like, okay, sure, let's do this. And so we ended up started selling those Squirrely dies so that I could afford to go to the conventions. And so that's how our whole grassroots sort of marketing thingy happened. Yeah.
Bootstrap,
yeah. So people tried it. If they try the 7-minute game, they're willing to at least hear the hook for the next game and then actually play the game. And you guys have played it. Once you play it, you realize, oh my God, this is legit.
Oh, very cool. Awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. And it's really fun, and it's really hard to. It's one of those games where, and I think your Kickstarter video does a pretty good job of this. It's one of those games that until you play it and really sort of experience the screw. I like games where you do screw your neighbor, right? I like those games where you really are like, just I can't believe you did that to me, and it's totally got that in there in a way that's just epically awesome. And as you said, the laws are great because you nail someone with them, and then later you end up nailing yourself with the same law by accident, And so it's got a lot of those great twists. There's a story happening here. The meeples just add a lot to it. You really are, feel like you're taking out people's husbands, wives, children, and dogs, which is sometimes the hardest to kill someone's dog. It's good fun. So
I love the fact that you can that you can subvert other people's meeples and turn them into your own.
Super dirty.
Yeah. And which was crazy because Dave went from, I think he only had one meeple left, and then he used the meeple like, you're my daddy now. All of a sudden, the big grown-up man meeple turns into his color, and then you're my woman. Now somebody else's grown-up woman meeple turns into Dave's. Like in one turn, he ended up with almost an entire family back again.
Yeah, that was pretty. That's, Shooting the Moon. In all of the play tests, I only think that's been pulled off like once or twice. People attempt it, but things, as you know, things go horribly wrong.
Oh yeah,
horribly
and
wrong.
I don't normally like games that have a programming aspect like Robo Rally and stuff, but this game, it's manageable enough, and you're just dealing with a few cards each time you do it, and it becomes such a central core mechanic to the game that it really just becomes second nature. But every now and then you put your cards in the wrong order.
Yep.
And that's funny too, because you're like, oh, I'm putting that there and that there and that there, and the first one flips, and you're like, that's not what I wanted to put there, and you kill yourself. I blew myself up at one point. It was great.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
Good times.
So it's very, very. I think it's just a blast. We had an absolute blast. It was a highlight of the con. And
it was.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
I hope it does as well for you as you deserve, because it is a fantastic game, and I think it's got the right combination of lighthearted fun with just enough really thinkiness to it that I think is a great. And the theme, it's really hard to capture the greatness of the theme.
Maybe this will help.
Yeah,
I like somebody likened it to say post-apocalyptic competitive Oregon Trail.
There you go.
Where dysentery will kill so many people, and you'll laugh all the way to the end.
Yeah, that's I love it. So Seppy, if people want to find out more about End of the Line or any of your other projects, where should they go on the internet to get all this information?
Okay, so we're on Twitter for Craig. We're on Facebook.
For everybody else.
Yeah, for everybody else. Those are really good ways because we're really responsive on that. We also have our site, which is fightina box.com. Fight in a box.
What's your Twitter handle and your Facebook?
Both are Fight in a Box.
Fight in a Box, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Both of those are Fight in a Box. And then of course, on Kickstarter, you have the End of the Line Kickstarter.
Great.
So that's going on right now. We need more help.
You gotta check it out. Check out the video, if nothing else.
Yeah, did you guys like it?
I did.
You guys like it?
I did.
I loved it.
Yeah, we got the children and the dog to behave in the video. Our Bob is one of our partners for the company, and he does video. And he, back in the day, did work for MST3K for a short stint.
Yeah, and he can tell. So I would definitely recommend, if nothing else, check out the video because it's well worth a watch. But be warned, you'll get sucked into the awesome that is End of the Line. So Seppy, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule in the middle of and heavy Kickstarter
craziness
to join us on this little program. We really appreciate it.
You guys have been awesome, and hopefully we can all work together to overcome the D6 generation Kickstarter curse.
I think we're going to do it. Come on, folks, we can do this.
Yeah, that's right. We can do it. They're over halfway done with 20 days left to go.
We got this. No problem, Seppy. You got it.
Yeah, we can do this. We can do it. And I have to, again, thank each of you guys for backing it. And it's a real testament, considering, yeah.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
It's exciting. So, Seppy, thanks again. And it was great to chat with you in person at Captain Con. And we're looking forward to seeing you at Adepticon.
Woot.
Absolutely. Woot,
yeah, can't wait. So take care, and we'll see you in April.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. brought to you by all of our fine friends over at Patreon. That's right, those folks who pledge anywhere from 50 cents to $20 an episode that help us keep things going, bring us where we've got to go, get us what we need so that we can bring you the not-so-horrible entertainment, using that term loosely, that we try to give you every other week. And this time, I would like to thank, in particular, Mermuse, Matt Chapman, Scott Parrish, Ray Slakinski, and Dave McAvoy. That seems too easy. Do you ever notice how ephemeral things can be? How in a moment things can just get turned on their heads and everything's all topsy-turvy? Coming from the Northeast, as we do, we deal with all sorts of different weather. It's really nasty, hot, humid in the summertime, wind, rain, snow, sleet, hail. Sleet, hail, I'm still a little confused about those two, the difference. But recently, a couple of weeks ago, we had a massive cold snap, undoubtedly due to a polar vortex. And things got really, really cold. Now, when you live in the far-off frozen north, as we do, or people even further north, like our friends to the north in Canada, you have this thing that happens occasionally called freezing pipes. And usually what that means is there's a little ice in the pipes and they kind of clog up and you have to either, run a hair dryer over the area that you think is frozen if you see some strain, or you just get an issue with some water pressure and things like that. But occasionally you get this thing called a burst pipe. And what that means is somehow the cold has gotten into this particular pipe and the ice has formed, and as ice will in nature, shattering stone and things like that, it will actually pop the seal, usually, on a pipe. Usually copper piping, and it's usually like a small little slice almost. It looks like it just like pops a little bit. And then, of course, you've got water gushing into your house if you're not lucky. A couple times over the last few years, living up here in frozen New Hampshire, we've had that water pressure issue with frozen pipes, but never, luckily, the burst pipe syndrome. My sister had one, and that was horrible. And we've had friends who have had similar situations. So 2 weeks ago, I was upstairs, and I was writing. I was trying to finish a project for Fantasy Flight, and my son was playing, I believe he was playing Minecraft in the next room. And I knew I wanted to go to the dump so that I could get a bunch of garbage out so that my wife would be a little more pleased with the home situation. And so I told my son, you need to get your shoes on, turn everything off. I'm going to grab all the garbage bags. So I ran down the flight of stairs, and I was in inch-deep water before I realized that I was in my house and there wasn't supposed to be an inch of water in my house. And I immediately started panicking. My basement was flooded to an inch. I had no way of knowing how long it had been that way, but it couldn't have been more than an hour because my wife had left for work and probably would have known or noticed if she was sloshing through an inch of water to get to the garage. So I ran around. First thing you need to do when you've got a burst pipe is you go to your house main water switch. Every house has one. You should know where it is in case of emergencies. I'm going to try to seed this little story with nuggets of wisdom. And you need to turn off the water going to your house. That will immediately turn off all the water coming into your house, which means there will be no more water to pour out of whatever burst pipe you're dealing with. The next thing you need to do is immediately start to try to get rid of the water. That's what's going to cause most of your damage. So I have a shop vac, and so I was using that. And I called my dad. I knew he had a shop vac also, so he came with a shop vac and a sump pump, and we started pumping the house out. Now, another issue, if you feel competent, eventually you're going to have to find where that pipe is. Sometimes it's going to be easy because there's going to be a massive wet soaking stain in a wall. Other places, other times, it's not going to be so easy. Of course, in order to find the hole, you need to turn back open the water main again so that water is flowing through. That's the only way you're going to find out where it's coming from. I lack the intestinal fortitude to do that, knowing that it was going to damage my house further. And so my dad did that, and I walked around the basement hoping that I could find it, because as I was trying to figure out what was going wrong when it first happened, I had come into the pub and I had heard like a waterfall sound. And so I knew that I would be able to hear it somewhere. My nightmare was that it was somewhere in the walls, up in the ceiling above, or in the house above the pub, which would have just been devastating. More devastating than finding an inch of water flooded throughout your entire basement. So ultimately, long story short, it was an outdoor faucet. And you're supposed to know where those are so you can turn those off. Also, you can turn those off in your house as well. And just that like just removes that whole issue. And make sure, of course, before the weather gets cold, that you you turn off the water main or the water line to that faucet, and then you open the faucet so all the water comes out. That way, there's nothing in there to freeze, or not enough in there to freeze to do damage. I didn't do that. Nobody told me to do that, in my own defense. And so that's what burst. And the sad thing was, for those of you who have seen pictures of the pub, there's a bar in the corner that I've spent a lot of time and effort decorating with carved wood and a giant Guinness bar back mirror and things like that. It was right behind that blew. And so the pub was saturated. Now, sadly, it was so bad, we eventually took us a day to figure out that we were really going to need to call in our house insurance, because that's not something you want to do lightly, because it can have all kinds of negative effects. But we knew we had to. We were terribly afraid of mold. My dad and I pulled the wall apart, and there was just nothing but insulation saturated. It was awful. And so I am in the pub right now, which is a minor miracle, but there is no floor. There's just concrete, which is ironic because the flooring I put in there was a laminate flooring, because I knew that it used to, before we fixed the landscaping, the original people who built this extension on the house had done some awful thing with landscaping, and it channeled the water right into the pub. So I knew when we first finished the pub that was going to be an issue. And yet somehow it was still so saturated that they had to destroy the floor and completely pull it up. Other casualties of my gaming area, all of my Frostgrave stuff happened to be in a battle foam bag, sadly face down. So I lost all of that stuff. However, the battle foam bag, you'll be happy to know, is still doing great. Unfortunately, I lost all that stuff. I lost a bunch of my Imperial Assault rule books and things. Now, we think the insurance company is going to be able to deal with most of that stuff. Oh, I lost all my old Star Wars terrain, the stuff that I made out of the Hearst art. So it was devastating. I'm not going to lie. There won't be any PattyCon this year. It's just a mess. It's ridiculous. We won't even be talking to the insurance person. The people who come in and remediate, or I don't even know the word anymore. I'm just like, it's been that kind of a week. But the people who take care of the mold and the moisture and everything, they had 10 industrial sized fans going on all over my basement for 4 days straight, which meant that it sounded like I was living above an airport. With 2 huge industrial-sized humidifiers going at the same time. So that all had to happen. Now the insurance person is coming in the next couple days. But yeah, so my awesome gaming space has been violated by real life, and I'm frustrated. So make sure that you know where your house main water is. Make sure that your insurance is up to date. Make sure that why not make sure that nothing's on the floor, like a battle foam bag. And I had other stuff on, like it's just devastating. Anyway. And make sure they say whenever it's supposed to be really cold, the weather says it's going to be really cold, make sure that you keep a tap running, just like to drip, drip, drip. That keeps the water circulating, I guess. I don't know, but I know that there are hospitals that do that. So if a hospital's doing that, it's probably not, at least not going to hurt. But another key is those outdoor faucets. If you can turn off those, if you know where that water is. So if I just saved one person from suffering everything that I just suffered with the pub flooding, then I can justify having bored the rest of you in your thousands who just listened to this whole story. That's all I've got to say about this. I'm rambling, and I didn't know what else to talk about, because seriously, this has been a crap fest. Good night.
Achievement unlocked. You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@the d6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA discussions forum on DACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
So I have to say, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but a lot of cookies, I kind of feel like all the major great flavors of cookies have been invented. But I have to say, Oreo's been experimenting with various flavors for limited time release, and they've come out with the peppermint swirl Oreo and all these other Oreos. I have to say, the cinnamon bun Oreo may be the greatest Oreo since the original Oreo. It is really fantastic. If you've not enjoyed a cinnamon bun Oreo, I highly recommend acquiring a pack. They are quite good.
I'm gonna have to try it out.
Yeah, I think they're better than so I've always kind of been the vanilla Oreo person. The ones with the vanilla cookie and the Oreo in the middle. And these are, the cookies have cinnamon crumble inside of them. So the cinnamony flavor. So they're very much, and then the middle is kind of like the frosting on top of the cinnamon bun. Oh.
When they miniaturized everything, it was like crack for me.
The thin ones? The thin ones are lethal because you're like, oh, these have to be less calories, only 10. So it's brilliant.